question is, can we see the mines?
No. No.
It was like...
Jesus! No. Ah!
30 seconds.
Where the fuck did you come from?
Shoot him! Stop reloading! Run!
No! Fucking hell!
No.
Oh,
you dickhead!
That's another death for Fairy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Podcast Planet. That's right. It's a sci-fi now. Ooh.
Our society rules are different to yours, human. We only talk to each other in audio.
Oh.
We don't interpret body language or the written word here.
We have no written language. It's all talking. Hello, Koto and Steltek and Laura. Hello from Brighton. What?
Writer, I hardly know her.
Oh.
Sorry. What we
Koto
doing?
says
Who
one
we
more
saying
month
hello
of
to?
subscription and then I may call it there. Well, it's been lovely to have you for 47 months. Insane. Very much.
What? That's so many
Um,
months.
Hello,
What's-
people who aren't dead, tired, and melting in the heat, and others. It's fairly toasty in here. It is fairly toasty in here.
I'm doing all right. I did a journey to London today, and it was a bit toasty in London,
Ooh.
but out
Yes.
here in Oxford, it's not that bad.
You had to watch a quite saucy film on a train.
I have so many tiny little anecdotes about that, by the way.
Well, actually, that's quite good because I actually think that I quite like the film this month, and I maybe don't want to spoil it. So maybe we should, like, when we get there. I mean, what's the vibe? Are you wanting to do like a full breakdown of the whole thing, or are you thinking that we should talk about it like we talk about other films?
I was up for breaking it down because I think that there's quite a lot I'd like to unpack about what happens in the film and the relationships.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also
that's fair.
I also think, I don't know, for as much as we enjoyed it, I don't know that we could convince other people to watch it.
I think I
easily.
could convince other people to watch it. For example, I think Koto would quite like this film. I do genuinely think that I can convince people to watch it. Okay, what we'll do is when we get there, we'll give like a top level view of what the film is, and then you can hop out if you actually want to watch it there. And
We'll
then
do
talk
we'll
about
do a
it.
spoiler clap, and we'll be like, look, spoilers happen now. Spoilers happen now. They happen for the minimum and then we can time some minutes where spoilers can happen, and then we stop doing spoilers after that time has ended.
Okay. Well, so since we haven't started recording the podcast now, we can give it a little behind the scenes. I'll turn on my recording now because I should be recording.
Oh, I'm not recording either until now. No.
So I
I'm recording.
I added a little timer, a 5-minute timer to my camera that Jonas can see, but obviously not you guys at home. And so when we finish a review, we're going to start a 5-minute timer and then try and wrap up the discussion after 5 minutes. So you might be looking at the most efficient, smooth podcast we've ever recorded.
This podcast is going to end like after 2 minutes. Jamie, I have realised I've
on a 5-minute timer. The timer's just going to completely destroy our ability to talk. It'll run for 2 minutes and we'll go, I'm done. I'm out of here.
I'll tell you what else might destroy our ability to talk.
What?
It's the fact that I forgot to move the sections around. So I think we should have
no.
TV first.
Yeah.
It's all right. I'm going to move TV to the top.
Okay. Have you swapped our names around as well?
I do that by always copying the
2
doc
months before.
from 1 month ago. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, an extra month ago. So that's how I always make sure that happens. But by doing that and forgetting to move the sections around, I'll also tell you a secret. The sections are a mess. We were really inconsistent in like 2 or 3 months. So now we're basically just making it up as we go.
I wasn't inconsistent. I never did any of it.
James, you also didn't fix me. You didn't stop me.
I didn't know. I didn't know we were
Yeah.
being inconsistent.
Oh, neither did I. So you're part of the problem, not the solution. Did I create the problem? Yes. But did you not fix the problem? Also, yes.
Yeah, also yes. Yeah, fair enough. Well, maybe next year then we could make all of the documents day one. Like in January we could make 12 documents.
We could.
You said that with such disdain.
Yeah, we could.
Look,
if this were my job, I would have done this for like 2 years in advance. But because it's not my job, I'm like, don't ask me to use my organizational brain.
Yeah. Well,
You think
I've gotten really into doing all of the work on one day. People may have noticed that I post a lot more promotional tweets and stuff. It's because I have one day a month where I do all of the promos in Adobe Express. I set up the whole month, and then I don't have to think about it until Adobe Express sends me emails saying it can't post to Twitter, and then I have to faff with that. But
well done. That's very, very demure, very mindful.
Thank
Very loud
you.
vehicle going past my window.
Yeah, Zoom. I had a website once where you could create timers. We used it for revision online to let people know when a video would end and they were supposed to talk again. Loud synchronize stopwatch and timer.
Yeah, I've seen people using tools like that for different things. Like, oh, everyone click this link and it will tell you when you've run out of time. Like, doing that in the middle of meetings and chats and collab things. I'm a big Miro board user, and Miro boards has timers in it. So
I got sent a Miro board by a client at work, and it was the first time I'd ever seen one, and that was how he gave us the brief for his thing. And it had like maybe it was a Miro board. It was something like that, and it had like a tour, like he recorded a voiceover, and then it took us round the board, and I was like, this is the weirdest brief I've ever received from a client for anything. It didn't. I don't think I came away from that understanding it well enough to offset the amount of time it must have taken him to make this.
Like you could have been left more confused, but figured it out in your own time.
Yeah,
and that would have been more resource
just
efficient.
talk to him face to face, and it would have taken him less time.
Perhaps. I love this post from Koto talking to Laura about Brighton places, and I really typed the sentence or nearly typed the sentence. Gastronomically speaking, North Lane is really goated with the sauce.
Laura says she's not Gen Z enough to understand.
Really goated with the sauce. Wow, level 10 Gyat.
Laura's a boomer.
Absolutely rizzing off that top notch. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
Can't let chat know we fuck with this.
I don't.
Do you know what I fuck with, James?
What?
It's me going 3, 2, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the exact same time as me. Ideally with some sort of percussive noise,
Okay.
so that your waveform is sharper on the beats. You could like tap 2 metal things together.
Good job.
Okay, I'm just going to trust that it works. Right. So 3, 2, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that'll probably do.
Yeah.
Skibbity
countdown. It's time for toilet.
Skibbity countdown, skibbity day.
I've never watched a Skibbity toilet.
I think I watched the first one, and I feel like I watched it like 3 years ago, but it wasn't I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was 2 years or 1 year ago, but it feels like I watched it a long time ago, and it's only now becoming part of like a weird vocabulary.
There was a period of time a while ago where Sylvie was trying to get us all to watch it, and was saying it's really genuinely good, and I couldn't take it. I couldn't take them seriously. I just no.
The most Gen Z of all of us.
They are, despite not being Gen Z, they very much are. I would say.
I know what you're saying. I know what you mean. I know where you're going.
I don't think I know anyone who's Gen Z. Wait, when's Gen Z? Like, when does Gen Z begin?
I don't understand this shit, and I kind of refuse.
I'm
But
gonna Google what is Gen Z.
I frequently play D&D with teenagers, so I trust that is my Gen Z experience.
Why do you play D&D with teenagers?
Because I'm paid to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's a literal job that I get DBS checked for.
Generation Z is people who are born between 1997 and 2012. So that would
1997.
Yes.
Oh my god! So those people are like.
So that would make the oldest Zoomers.
27.
20. What?
5 years younger than me. 27.
27.
1997.
Yes. Oh, so I do know some Zoomers. I do.
Yeah.
I know a Zoomer at work who every time there's a new lineup of Taskmaster contestants, she's a big fan of Taskmaster, as am I. We'll talk about them, and she'll not know any of them apart from the people who were until recently children's TV presenters and have now moved on to a different part of their career consistently.
Whereas I often know none of them.
Well, that is
stop.
in itself surprising, but I guess that maybe that's because you spend all your time watching Japanese anime instead of British comedy.
I am so like unplugged from a lot of zeitgeist that like affects a lot of media aware people of my age. So it's just I so commonly don't know who an actor is, who a TV presenter is, the history behind like some kind of UK influential piece of media, because I haven't watched terrestrial television since I was 18, ever, once at all.
I don't think that's an excuse, because I haven't either.
But I mean, like even BBC shows, like I don't really watch like anything that is broadcast for British audiences.
Yeah.
And then I don't really listen to news or read news or pay attention to news. I just if I get news, I get it through a community that is not news centric. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of
just people
funneled
on the street shouting at you.
Yeah.
Oi, Governor, did you hear? Sir Starmer is now leader of the country.
I get my news.
Thank you, young lad.
The town crier is just the most infallible.
Hear ye, hear ye.
It's a system that's worked for 7,000 years since the Roman Empire, James.
Disney Plus has raised its prices once again. Hear ye, hear ye.
You what? What an outrage! I'm going to go home and complain about it on twitter.com.
Write a letter to my MP. Now, who is my MP and what's an MP?
Good question. Mana points. Everyone knows
mana points. Write a letter to your mana point so that you can perform magic that will solve your problem. Do you want to record a podcast and I can inform you about life? I can teach you to be a real boy.
I'm not going to be aloof this time, James. Yes, I do.
Maybe
I want that.
We should add a segment at the beginning of each podcast where I teach you just a normal news story, like something that's happened in political news in recent memory, and then
I would probably benefit from that. It's just whether or not you're going to put the time in and whether or not our audience is going to respond positively to it.
See, I'm the complete opposite of you in that most of the time when I'm not at a computer or like when I'm walking around in places, I'm listening to political podcasts. So I have like just a constant feed of news into my brain, and I listen to like 3 or 4 different podcasts who often talk about the same thing. So it's almost like revision. I get the same information put into my head over and over and over again. So I am informed for the both of us. Next time there is a general election, just ask me who to vote for, and I will help you.
I honestly learn about a lot of news things from just the group WhatsApp chat we have with our school friends, because someone will just be like, "Well, that was fucked," and then I'll wait like 7 messages, and eventually I'll have enough context from all the like everyone saying, "Well, this is a fucked up situation," to be like, "Oh, now I know what the fucked up situation is."
Or you have
Because
enough to Google it from there.
exactly. Like, okay, someone just mentioned this town, this name, and this murder weapon. I'm pretty sure that so and so did it with the knife in the, and I know.
Well,
I know.
this is an interesting revelation, but one I can't say I don't completely expect.
I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty honest about my like complete illiteracy to like
yeah,
current events.
I don't know. You just like you've always struck me as one of the smarter ones of my friends. So to find that you're like completely devoid of all like real world knowledge is somewhat impressive.
But fictional knowledge, I am fucking brimming, mate. Oh
Yeah.
my god, do
Yeah.
I know so much fiction?
All right, let's do a podcast then, and have a chat about some fiction, shall we? Right.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Bunyip Review. I am your co-host James the Bunyipman Willis, and I am here with my co-host Tetris Troubler Garway with Jonas at the beginning. I fucked that completely. Jonas Tetris Troubler Garway. I might have even already done that one. How you doing, Jonas?
I'm pretty sure you've called me a troubler of different things at one point, James.
There's only so many words that begin with T.
But today I happen to be troubling Tetris. Do you want to know exactly how I've gone about doing that?
Tell me how you trouble those tetrominos, sir.
I've actually gone into the game's code and I've introduced curves into a select number of the
shit.
shapes just so that they don't fit together. Completely fucked that game right up, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Or does it not make the game more interesting? Have you not reinvigorated a stale format?
Well, I mean, the concurrent players of Tetris has skyrocketed from 2 to 2,500,069,724. Yes, but I do think that Tetris is having a hard time of it, despite the surge in popularity.
It's having a hard time of it, yes, because there is only one copy of Tetris, and all those people have to crowd round and play it together.
They're all concurrently playing it in one fixed location on one machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
The machine has a battery life of about 45 minutes. It's an interesting time for the world.
Yes, but enjoyable to watch as a spectator, which unfortunately does also increase the size of the crowd. It's becoming completely unmanageable.
Absolutely. If I weren't recording this podcast, I'd be in the mosh pit myself.
Absolutely, and would I? I think that's our plan after this, don't you think? I'm bringing my machete. I want to. I want to move on. I want to talk about. I want to talk about TV, movies, and games, which is why we convene here every month. This is a podcast where we talk about our. I was about to say favorite, but actually, it's just things that we have watched or played over the last month. This month, I'll be talking about Australian TV show Thank God You're Here. I'll be talking about the movie Wicked Little Letters, and I'll be talking about the game Cities Skylines 2, the sequel to Cities Skylines. And Jonas, what will you be talking about this month?
Jamie, I just want to complain as well that your TV show is way too similar to the game I reviewed last month. And so I genuinely thought that you were just reviewing what I reviewed last month. Thank God you're here, and thank goodness you're here.
Yeah.
Maybe there are more similarities
Well,
than I
mine's been
appreciate,
around a lot longer.
quite possibly. James, I'm going to be reviewing from the television. I'll be reviewing Baby Reindeer. From the movies, I will be reviewing the film Argylle, and from video games, I will be reviewing the video game Cassette Beasts.
Nice, and we'll be talking about our Netflix randomizer movie from last month, which was More the Merrier, a Spanish like sex rom-com kind of film. but we'll get to that a bit later. Before that, we have a rewind. And the reason we were rattling on about Tetris earlier was because, Jonas, you have watched the Tetris movie I reviewed a little while ago. What did you think?
It's great, and I'm really upset that I can't review it as my film this month. Because I watched it yesterday in a panic of like, shit, I need to watch something before the podcast. And then I checked the spreadsheet of things we've reviewed, only to discover that you reviewed Tetris last year.
This podcast has really changed how both of us engage with media. The two side effects I found, one is that I need to check a spreadsheet every time I watch a movie, and two is that if I'm enjoying a game and then it's reviewed on the podcast, I immediately stop enjoying that game. I haven't played Baldur's Gate since the award show. That I will often play a game I'm really loving and then be like, on to the next one.
I'm a little bit like that at the moment, where it's like, right, okay, I reviewed that game last month. I need to review a new game, so I can't keep playing the old game. I have to play a new game. And yes, it is ruining my life.
Well, I'm glad that we continue to do it after all these years. So Tetris, I remember enjoying it myself. What did you enjoy about it? How did you like it?
I liked it a lot. Okay, so it's a film about like how the game Tetris got made. So it's like, it's going back in time and sort of telling that story. But it is so much less about the development of a video game, and it is so much more about this almost political thriller level of like international business decisions and financial decisions being made across Japan, America, and Russia, particularly in the context of like the near end of Russian communism. And it is so much more educational and fascinating from that sense, from that real like political landscape of trying to buy a product that was made in Russian communism and sell it internationally across these two big countries, Japan and America, and the intervening forces of, at the time, Nintendo and Microsoft, precursor to Microsoft, I suppose. They're just completely unrelated.
Yeah, Microsoft was the Mirror Group, wasn't it?
I had so just from the fact that it had soft
Yeah.
at the end, I assumed
Microsoft was a British video game publisher founded by Jim McAnochy as a division of the Mirror Group newspapers, which is why there's that whole thing about the Mirror Group newspapers in the film.
Right, because I get that company went completely fucking bust and went down.
Yeah.
But I just assumed that because it ended in soft, that there was some kind of like some of those people survived and went on to do software in Microsoft.
The soft
Which is
stands for
interesting.
software,
Which is interesting.
as it does in
So
Microsoft.
that makes a lot more sense. I just thought so many companies were soft back in the.
They
back
were.
in the
Lots of companies were soft, but that doesn't mean they were soft together.
Soft companies. Anyways, I have that slightly wrong, but I just found that political landscape really interesting. How a lot of this film is about what it was like for a human being to walk into Russia at that time and attempt to essentially buy the rights to something internationally. And a lot of the kind of stakes and thrill of that film is like how the Russians really did not fucking want you to do that. And how Tetris was a product of overcoming this particular kind of like legal barrier, political barrier, cultural barrier, all three really.
Yeah, I think it's like, I think one of the things I praised it for when we reviewed it the first time round was that it doesn't really stop to like hold your hand like some other like video game sort of biographical stories do, in that being like, here's what a video game is and here's why it's important. It doesn't do that. It just assumes you know why Tetris is important and then focuses on the story behind it. And I think that helps it lean into this cultural and political side, which is the real meat of it. Because I think if it was more about why Tetris is important, I don't think it would have been as fun or as interesting. And I think it uses its resources very well, and it aims its story very well. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I remember it being an energetic, fun film. Yeah, I'm glad you got
Yeah,
around to
it
watching it.
is very energetic and fun. It's got some really good, like, the soundtrack. It plays like, Russian and Japanese versions of like "I Need a Hero" and "Final Countdown." It has these transitions where it like, always shows you like a pixelated version of like Japan or Russia or America before transitioning into the actual scene with the actual actors. It's got like a Russian choir singing the Tetris theme in like the final act of the film as everything's coming to an end, having this like male choir booming this like really masculine and military like Tetris theme. And I was like, these touches are really good. They make the film so much like more distinct in terms of its personal identity without really diluting the really quite unique story it's telling.
It
It's
really
great.
feels like they've put a lot of effort into it in a way that they could have easily not, and it shows. They put a lot of effort into the detail. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that and rewatched it because it's one that I could have easily seen. It was like a sort of flash in the pan film where it was advertised for like a couple of weeks and then disappeared. So I could easily see it sort of disappearing into the distance. And I'm glad you got to enjoy it too. I'm going to briefly reinvigorate an old feature we used to do on this podcast. We're going to talk about some news. Not because I want to bring back the news, it was always too much, but because I saw this story just before we came on live and it's just so chaotic and so interesting and it's so relevant to stuff that we talk about the gaming industry all the time that I just wanted to just talk about it. Some of you may have heard of the recent Sony first party title Concord. It was a 5v5 hero shooter that they released on the 23rd of August, and they have announced that it will shut down on the 6th of September, refunding everyone who bought it. So, if you can do the maths, and you heard that right, that means that it will have been alive for a solid 2 weeks before being shut down by the company that runs it, and refunding all of the players. It hit a all-time maximum players of 607 on Steam. This is up against something like Overwatch, which was regularly hitting 22,000 or more players this many years after its release. And I think today had something like 20 players as a peak or something. Jonas, you are now more heavily embedded in the gaming industry than me, and also we've talked at length about about how companies support and promote and construct video games. What do you think about Concord?
So, there's a few things to note about Concord. So, one, in terms of its genre, it's exactly the same as Overwatch, right? It's a hero shooter. You go into a match, you pick a hero that has unique abilities, and then you do like some objective-based combat with another team against another team, and alongside your team, and then you do that, and it ends. And the way that we all found out about this game was like a Guardians of the Galaxy esque CG trailer. Like they didn't show any gameplay, just like how quirky and fun and cool all the characters were. Except it wasn't really quirky and fun and cool. It was kind of like confusing and a bit like, why is someone injecting faux Marvel into my like games trailer lineup?
Especially
Um,
when there is already going to be a Marvel hero shooter.
Especially when Marvel are officially releasing Marvel Rivals. By the way, they've announced officially that it's going to be free to play and all heroes will be free and unlocked for the rest of development. Like, you will never have to purchase a character through either real monetary gain, like purposes, or in-game currencies. You'll just have them unlocked, which is like, wow, does your favorite character show up? Great, you can just log in and play them. Two, Overwatch still exists. Like it's not as popular as it used to be, but you can still play Overwatch 2.
I still regularly do. I buy every battle pass.
Exactly. And you can still play games that are a lot like this as well. So you can still play like Smite, which is a little bit third person over the shoulder. I believe like a game called Gigantic or something like that came out recently, which is like sort of has similar energy. This is a game that's been in development for 8 years, which means that at the time someone conceived this idea and greenlit it, like this could have been maybe the only feasible competitor to Overwatch. But 8 years later, the landscape. No one wants this game anymore. People barely want Overwatch. Let's face it. Like it still has its player base, but no one is begging for it now. People are sort of playing it because they still enjoy it, but no one is like
because they have to.
demanding
Because they have
because they
they have
have
a
to.
crippling addiction.
And we're at this point now where the only people who are like excited for something Marvel like have their eyes on Marvel Rivals. I'm sorry, Overwatch like. They have their eyes on Marvel Rivals. And that looks incredible. It's got so much more like momentum and speed, and it's got the IP and thousands of characters. And some of them chat points out, and it's only relevant because it actually just got announced like last week officially. But everyone has known for like a month now that Steam is making or Valve is making their own hero shooter, Deadlock. And even in a closed beta where you can only get a private invitation, it had more concurrent players than Concord ever had at any point. Suicide Squad, one of the biggest AAA flops of all time, a game that, again, its vision started 6 or 7 years ago, and it got forced through the door in a landscape that it did not ask for it. That had, I think, 13,000 players at max concurrent, and that's one of the biggest flops of the year. So to put Concord's measly 700 next to it is just mind-boggling, genuinely.
But there's something to be said here for the fact that, like, yeah, it's been in development for a very long time, but so was Overwatch. Overwatch was originally intended to be an MMO and then went through development hell and eventually ended up coming out being the Overwatch that it is. And we've seen a lot of other games that have been in development for hundreds of years and ended up coming out and sort of slowly grinding their way to success. What is it about Concord in particular that caused it to have to crash in 2 weeks? Like, what is it that's so unappealing about this game in particular, right? Because in theory, we haven't got Marvel Rivals yet. We haven't got Deadlock yet. There is a moment where this could be a reasonable Overwatch sort of salve in between then, and it just isn't. I don't think I've ever seen a game that was a first-party title of a company that came out to, like, no interest. Not disgust, no interest. That's really impressive.
So I think part of it is just really lackluster marketing. Really lackluster marketing. With those games that flop and then push on to be good, there's often a lot of expectations on day one, and the expectations don't get met. And that's the opportunity. That's the point where it's make or break. Push through or give up. And the games that we're thinking of, No Man's Sky is the most obvious one. That's the game that pushed on and became big. Warframe's a really big example of that as well.
Well,
Those are games
these days, every game is like that. I mean, I'm going to be talking about City Skylines 2 later on, but that is another example of this kind of thing.
But yeah, for a game to come out with nearly no hype, no expectations, no one's like, "Oh, are you going to play Concord when it comes out?" Like none of us were having that conversation internally.
Nope.
And we are, as a group, at least one of us is normally quite excited for something on the horizon and willing to communicate it when it's got a multiplayer aspect to it. And yeah, Concord just came out, and for it to start at 700 that is almost in and of itself a complete and utter like nail in the coffin.
It's a crazy thing to happen to Sony as well, considering that, like, before I stopped using Twitter very regularly, a lot of my Twitter feed would be small indie developers who are promoting the shit out of their games, and they would be excited if they came out to a few thousand players when they started, and they are hitting higher numbers than Sony, which is insane. It almost feels like after the amount of money they dropped on Concord building it over the 8 years, that they just basically went, we're kind of done with this. We just want it to disappear into the background. Do you think Concord is a good example or like an example of maybe game development taking too long? Like 8 years on a game that flops within the first 2 weeks, is that an example of sort of an excess of development time, and that actually maybe things should start being reined in so that those kind of failures don't seem so extreme?
Well, here's the thing: is I look at Concord, and I don't think I can see 8 years of development time. What I can see is a game that I think for all its technology and mechanics and characters and art, I think you probably could have developed this game in 3-4 years if you had the vision from the get-go and you weren't mired by production issues.
Mm.
I think this is a game that was just mired and mired and mired with like vision issues and scope issues and identity crises and trying to compare itself to the landscape and adjust to that landscape. But there's a certain point where you can't keep adjusting a game. You just have to make it. You just have to make it with the vision that you have. And I think that this is just a game that spent so long in sort of some weird cacophony of redesign, re-identity, rebrand, recreate, do it again, change this, do it again, change this, that by the time it comes out, the original idea from which it was born is barely like perceivable.
Yeah, it's Duke Nukem Forever syndrome. Like it's yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Well, I think it's interesting to talk about. I think it's interesting. Like it's rare that we have a flop that's that insanely bad. Like even recent ones we've talking about, like Redfall and things like that. Like where they you know they were bad, but they still had a decent player base, and like a lot of us played them. Like this just seems like an incredible failure. And I think it'd be that the way that they're sort of ending blog post that they put out was written made it sound like maybe they might try and fix it. It was like, we're going to try and find a solution for all of the fans or something like that. But I do wonder if they do try and salvage it or if it just disappears into into the ether.
So here's the thing: is they will salvage it, but we just don't know what that will. Like it's possible that they'll salvage it, and none of us on the outside will even know that they did that. In the form of they can easily just take a lot of the technologies and a lot of the engine and a lot of the kind of characters and skills that they've built, and just put them into some AAA single player adventure game.
But is
And we
that
wouldn't
doing
know.
it for the fan?
No,
I guess
not at
there
all.
are. I guess there aren't
That's
any fans.
that's doing it to save development costs.
Yeah.
But if I would like to see this game try again, I would. I think if this game was still out in 5 months and I knew at least one person playing it, like I bet you in the next 5 months I'd be willing to touch it. But also, here's the other thing I haven't mentioned. It costs like £45
Yeah.
to buy this game and
Yeah.
play it. And when you put shit behind a paywall, you like exponentially cut down anyone's ability to like have interest in your game. You just do.
I think though part of that comes back to it was conceived in a different landscape, because that was what Overwatch's business model was when that came out, and that did like gangbusters. It was exceedingly well picked up. That you may, if you're building a game around the idea that was still the landscape, nowadays microtransactions and battle passes and all that stuff are so interwoven into the design of games that it might be quite difficult to take a game that was intended to be a full price title and rejig it to now be a free to play game. Overwatch suffered quite a lot for their attempt to do it. That maybe there just was no turning back at that point.
Yeah, I honestly, there's people who are probably having this conversation like 25,000 times over in various offices and decision-making chats and, financial things. And I think it would be quite fascinating to see what Sony and the developers are allowed to say about this in sort of like a year or two's time. I really hope that developers working on this don't sort of face backlash, but they're actually given sort of, the executives come in and go, guys, we didn't listen to you, and now we want to make it right. We want to give you guys the chance to make the game as good as you think it can be.
They've got 8 years of pretty intense experience now. They're well worth keeping hold of. I guess my last question would be: Overwatch was supposed to be an MMO, and it ended up going into development hell and becoming the 5v5, well, 6v6, but hero shooter it became. Concord is a 5v5 hero shooter, and it went into development hell. So what's the next step down? What does it come back as?
It comes back as I'm trying to remember. Do you know Square Enix released a game called Foam Stars?
Oh,
Oh my
Foam
god! So
Stars?
Square Enix released their own hero shooter that's like Splatoon, where you're meant to cover the map in your team's colored foam soap,
You just got to cover
soapy liquid.
You got to cover the map in cum.
Yeah, well, that's basically what Splatoon is. But
Well, but
don't
Splatoon.
worry.
Okay, I'm looking at it now, and
Yeah.
it definitely feels a bit more adult than Splatoon.
It is, but it is definitely trying to use dishwashing soap and
How have I
foam
never
as
heard of this?
because it's Square Enix and they don't, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But this is like Concord becoming Concord becoming Foam Stars is the next step down,
Becoming a cum shooter. Is that what it is?
and
Is that
comes.
is it? That's the name of that genre now.
I think the step down below that is you become like. I'm trying to think. You sort of become like the kind of free to play game that you play while you're waiting for something to install. You know what I mean? Like this. You
Yeah.
become like this lightweight app that can open in 3 seconds and can be closed in 3 seconds.
Concord becomes Cookie Clicker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
A
And
squirter.
that's
So Koto in chat has named the genre the squirter shooter.
a squirter shooter.
Squirter shooter.
I suspect that if you try and tell the Splatoon base that they play, hey, you play squirt PS first squirt person shooters.
Squirt person shooters. That's
really
it.
good.
That's the name of the genre. I think if this podcast is going to have any legacy at all, it's going to be naming very niche genres. We've already got Papers Likes, right? And now we've got squirt person shooters.
Squirt person shooter.
Of which there's
oh
two, as far as I'm aware. but yes, a squirt person shooter.
Hey, there are 3 Splatoon games.
Yeah, fair enough. So there's 4 squirt person shooters.
Jamie, you know how we weren't going to ramble. Shall we talk about the medias?
Let's talk about some TV. All right, Jonas. Well, you're up first. Tell us your telly.
I am talking about my television show. I'm going to be talking about is Baby Reindeer, and the juxtaposition for this is so fucked. So Baby Reindeer is a television show on Netflix, and I went in with very little clue as to what it was about. I think on the surface, like if you like sort of maybe briefly watch the trailer, you'd know it's a show about a comedian called Donnie Dunn, who's played by Richard Gadd, who has a stalker called Martha, played by Jessica Gunning. And Donnie is like, he's got this really strong desire for attention and validation and fame that kind of causes him to keep making bad decisions after bad decisions. And he has a stalker, so you can kind of maybe see how that would make a story. But what actually happens in this show is it actually tells the story of some extremely like dark and captivating experiences that kind of navigate like addiction and abuse and trauma and shame. At this point, I would like to put a really massive content warning for this show, by the way. If you are someone who has experienced sort of any sort of abusive relationship, do some research before you watch this show. So, Baby Reindeer begins when barkeep and struggling comedian Donnie Dunn feels pity for a woman sat at the bar of the pub he's working at, and he offers her a free cup of tea. And this kind of sets something off. And over time, he and this woman sort of develop a friendship, I suppose, as he continues to serve her free cups of tea. And she keeps coming in. This is Martha. Martha keeps coming in and treats Donnie with this kind of weird brand of kindness that he kind of just finds himself unable to refuse. And you have this story between Donnie and Martha that develops as Martha sort of becomes this stalker. And it's that they're also sort of broken up with moments of Donnie maybe practicing his sort of prop and costume heavy comedy routine, or his romantic relationship with trans woman Terry, played by Nava Mal. All this kind of weirdly complex home life he has, in which he rents a bedroom from the mother of his ex-girlfriend. Um, it's also worth noting as well that there's actually as an element of this story that's actually quite biographical. Richard Gadd uses this show. He wrote this show and developed the show, and actually used to perform this actually as a comedy show at the Fringe Festival. Richard Gadd uses this show to kind of tell his own experience with stalking and abuse. In its 7 episodes, Baby Reindeer has proven to be one of the most effective shows I've seen. And I use that word very specifically, like it affected me. Through its use of narration, flashbacks, cutting to text messages, and these deeply unsettling expressions of abusive relationships it at several moments left me with this very deep and real feeling of like disgust and danger. And this is a compliment to its storytelling, not a warning against it, because it's very intentional. I suspect I got this feeling maybe because it's one of the few shows I've seen where it depicts a male protagonist going through this sort of like this level of abuse in their personal relationship. Um, I don't really know if I have like a good vocabulary to describe it, but I feel like maybe watching Baby Reindeer got to me, or got its kind of point across to me as a male, because I was watching a sort of these experiences go through a male protagonist, where I think a lot of shows, and there's lots of films, have actually told these same similar experiences with female protagonists. And maybe it took having a male protagonist for me for these themes to really kind of hit me as well as they did. Or perhaps it's just that the show writes it so uniquely, and it just stands above many others that I've seen. Oh, whatever the case is, Baby Reindeer really quickly drew me in and really made me give a shit about the drama unfolding within it. Martha's escalation from a harmless fountain of positivity in front of Donnie quickly shifts into what we kind of expect her to be throughout the rest of the show. Scenes constantly transition with this black screen, and then we get this SFX, this sound effects of a keyboard typing, in which, and then we see this Martha written email appear on screen, always relevant to what's happening right now in the story, all of them ending with "sent from my iPhone." And then there's Donnie's relationship with Terry, which I think is just maybe one of the best and few portrayals of like a trans relationship that I personally have seen in a drama show of its like. And I would genuinely love to see Nava act in more films and shows. She's absolutely phenomenal. Terry is an excellent character, forced to confront and experience and be a passenger alongside the abusive relationship between Donnie and Martha. And it's just incredible storytelling. This is not a fun show. And as such, I find it really hard to know how to recommend it, other than sort of what I've said thus far. I am really glad I watched it, despite some of the awful, awful emotions it made me sit with after some of its episodes' runtimes. Jamie, how much do you know about Baby Reindeer? Because this seems like one of Netflix's kind of head title shows for a little while, like for a month or two.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, and a lot of people in my office were talking about it, and I saw a lot of news stories about it as well. Because as you alluded to in your review, this is based on a true story, and the woman that it's based on came out and did a bunch of interviews, or at least a few interviews, about her perspective on the whole thing and how she felt that it wasn't that fair to her. How much did you see about the real life story after you'd watched it or before you'd watched it? Like, how much did you know about the real side of this?
I knew nothing about the real side beforehand. In fact, I didn't even know it was biographical in any way. It's only when I started writing notes on this that went to the IMDb page and I could see some trivia notes. That woman sort of did an interview with Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
Where she very much said like, actually he was the stalker and I'm misrepresented. But I don't know. I actually don't really take much of this show into reality with me. Um, I I see the fiction that this show is, and I've kind of left it at the door there. I think it tells a very good story. I think a very effective story with some really, those themes are really well presented in the way that they want to be. And I don't really have any thoughts about who was a real hero or villain in the real world. And
Yeah, that's fair. I guess because what I was going to ask about that was, like, knowing that it's a real person, do you feel like the story is fair to its characters? Do you feel like it treats them as human beings? Like, is it fair to Martha as a person, or is she more of a representative of that kind of abusive person that you could have in your life?
I would struggle to say Martha's perspective is almost never presented to the audience. So
Mm.
in that sense, it is like it is not fair. It is not fair because it does not give you a balanced
Mm.
perspective. It is very much the male character's perspective. It is Donnie's perspective. Um, that said, Donnie is a piece of shit, like constantly, 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 constantly. At times a victim, and at times just the result of his own fucking awful decisions. And you kind of can't help but like kind of want to grab him and shake him throughout the show and be like, why are you making these bad decisions? You are forcing me to go through some really awful emotions because you make bad decisions. Like, it's that kind of writing where you just wish the main character would stop being awful and doing awful things so that you could just have a nicer TV show to watch. But it's compelling. So at the same time, you're like, you are watching this because that emotion is coming forth.
Yeah. All of the stuff that I heard about this show focused very heavily on the stalker relationship in the show, but you've clearly been very taken by the trans relationship with this character Terry. What makes that stand out from other trans representations you've seen on screen?
So like I guess I'm avoiding talking too much about some of the stuff that's in the show later. But Donnie as a character is very self-aware of the fact that he is dating a trans woman and how that might be perceived in like a very sort of cis male blokey heteronormative society in London. And the conversation around that, and the conversation around how he feels dating someone that's trans, and how he feels being seen with someone that's trans, and how Terry, the trans individual in this conversation, picks up on this and experiences this is just so, I think it's so good. It feels so real. Like it just feels very much like someone could potentially get a huge amount of reality, like catharsis out of this. Because yeah, it just feels very real. I feel like I'm seeing a real relationship that two people are actually having somewhere out there, and I'm just not there, playing out in front of me, and it feels educational and informative and just so fascinating.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen. I've seen a few trans stories in stuff, especially in recent years, but I don't think I've seen a story that handles the sort of cis ally, but like dealing with society's expectations point of view on this kind of thing, and that sounds really interesting. It sounds like a really interesting show. It's been on my list to watch since it came out and since people have talked about it. And this has made me still interested but apprehensive about your various warnings. Feels kind of bad to do like a silly intro into a one sentence review on a show this heavy, but we're gonna do it anyway, I guess. So, Jonas, you are a comedian and bartender, and you are like not in a super good place, but then a one word review walked into the bar, and you take pity on it and give it a free cup of tea, and a budding relationship or friendship grows, but then it starts to grow bigger and bigger and start to overwhelm you, and becomes a dangerous and unwieldy stalker relationship, and finally becomes the upsettingly large one sentence review of Baby Reindeer, which is It's the best I could do, man.
Thanks, buddy. You did great. I didn't know how much I needed to watch this.
Okay. An interesting, important show, and well worth a watch, it sounds like. Baby Reindeer. That was a big Netflix one, so that's where you'll be able to find it. Yeah. Right, on to something a little bit lighter, let's say, for my review of the month. And I'm talking about a show called Thank God You're Here. Thank God You're Here is an Australian light entertainment improv comedy show. I first became aware of this when I saw the Auntie Donna boys post some clips of Mark being in one of the episodes, and that led me to seek it out, and I've been quite enjoying it recently. Each episode features 4 guests. Usually they're comedians, but sometimes they're actors or Australian TV show hosts, I think. I don't know. A lot of the time they'll be like, here's this person, and the audience will be like, yeah, and I'll be like, The premise is that they must perform a scene with no idea what to expect. They're dressed up in a costume, and then they're brought to a blue door, and once they go through the door, the scene begins, always with a member of the ensemble cast in the scene, there to push the scene along, starting with the line, "Thank God you're here." Then you get a scene, like where Ross Noble is an astronaut being interviewed before his first space flight, or Mark Bonanno is a tech billionaire on a chat show, or Guy Montgomery is a Dr. Evil-style character checking out his new lair. As with all celebrity improv shows, the quality of any one segment relies heavily on the guest's ability. Some guests are a bit timid and have to be helped through it. Others are intense and the ensemble cast can't get a word in edgewise. But when they have a good one, the format really, really sings. The show has a cast of actors who will play all the extra characters in the scene. Their job is usually to set up jokes and support the guest to be the centre of attention. Sometimes this feels a little bit forced, like starting a sentence with, "And sir, you know what you always say," and then looking at the person waiting for them to come up with a joke, which can end up feeling a little bit like TV Mad Libs. But when they get the setting right, it can flow really, really well. What makes it stand out over other improv shows like Murderville or Whose Line is its contained, short-form, pre-planned scenarios. This allows them to kit out sets with props and costumes for the guests to play with, like a bag of flour that Ross Noble gleefully flung all over the set and all of the other actors, or an actual live snake that one guest was accused of smuggling onto a plane. This also allows them to have an idea of what jokes they'll try and coax out of weaker guests and a contained time frame to force an ending on them. Each episode always ends with a big scene starring all of the guests, and these are usually the best ones of the whole show. Warmed up and ready with other clueless comedians for support, most of them are usually fully ready to let loose at this point. Once you get past the weirdness of watching another country's light entertainment TV, so the constant references to Aussie TV legends that I've never heard of, or touting the show's totemic presence in Aussie comedy culture after I've literally only heard about it this year, this show really is a gem. More fun than most British Saturday night TV, I would say. This is a show well worth chucking your VPN on for. Jonas, I know you're an Auntie Donna fan, but you're also banned from Twitter, so you might not have seen their social posts about it. Have you heard of this show? Do you know anything about it?
No, I know nothing about it. As I say, the title made me think you were referring to a recently reviewed British Yorkshire game. And yes, when I saw that it was Australian, I gathered that it must have some relationship to your interest in the Auntie and the Donnas. Because let's face it, Australia is like not big enough to have like more than one like bacon number from Auntie Donna at this point when it comes to like Australian comedy.
Genuinely, like, I'm starting to know some of them more now through the various things I've watched, but the cast that they have to play all the extras in the scenes, a lot of them have been on various Auntie Donna projects. You're like, yeah, I know that guy, and I know that one. Yeah.
It's almost like there are 20 comedians in Australia, and it's like they just have to share each other's projects.
That's basically what it feels like. They have a part of the show it's the least interesting part of the show, but that there's a celebrity judge of every show who judges who is the best guest on the show. And Adam Hills is one of the regular guests, and you're like, oh yeah, he is Australian. Yeah, they've called him back in to do his service on the TV. Last Leg, he was a lot of British TV show. I'm watching Jonas's face, realize that he has no idea who this person is. Very famous in British comedy.
You know how I was just saying that I do not know so many common references that everyone else takes for granted.
Yeah.
I've never seen The Last Leg. I don't know what it is.
All right, well, never mind then. There's not very many Australian comedians, and they even have to recall them back from the diaspora to fill out the show.
Oh, okay. So you've had fun with it. How much of it is there? Because you made it sound like it's a show that's like it's had its heyday, but it's not relevant now.
No, so actually, it was so there's 6 seasons, but the first 4 were like 15 years ago, and then they stopped for a long time. And last year was like the revival season. So and it has that thing of a revival show where a lot of the guests watched the show when they were younger, so they now get to be on the show that they loved when they were kids. But also, it's not so long ago that the people who were on the original series are too old to do it anymore. So they have people who are seasoned, people who know the show really well, who come back on to do things, and brand new people as well. Ross Noble, for example, was on one of the original series ones and quite well beloved, and then came back to do some of the new ones as well. I've only seen the new ones. I don't know what the old ones are like. I haven't been able to get a hold of them, but the new ones are pretty fun.
Gotcha. Nice. And do you think is it quite like it sounds like it's quite like game showy. So I assume quite light watching. Like there's nothing
It's super
it's
light.
not something you're not having to sit down there and like commit your brain.
No, it's super light. I mean, it has a very much a vibe of something that would be on in like the Saturday night, like in the UK Gladiators slot on TV. Like it's each scene is in between a telly break, and the host will come out and be like, right, we'll go to a break, and when we come back, Ross Noble's going to be blah 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 or whatever. And it just has that sort of like you'll pay attention when the guy the name of's doing his scene, and then you'll be talking to your mum while the other scenes are on or whatever. But it has a nice vibe. It has a very nice, friendly, light vibe to it. I've had it on background while I've been working, and I'll like an episode will be playing, and then I'll hear a name I recognize, and I'll be like, oh great, and I'll stop for 10 minutes, watch their improv scene, and then I'll go back to it. I've also encountered comedians now who have been on multiple episodes where when they come up on a new episode, I don't know their name, I've never seen them in anything else, but I'm like, fuck yeah, this guy's back, let's go.
Nice. No, it sounds really great. It sounds like it sounds kind of perfect for, because you mentioned how it does stand out slightly differently to like something like Murderville, which like I still I would like to see more kind of light entertainment Netflix streamable improv comedy, that sort of like sketch comedy, improv comedy, almost that kind of thank goodness you're here. No, that's the wrong title. The Tim Robinson Show, which I've completely forgotten the name of now. Oh god, I keep thinking it's called Thank Goodness You're Here.
Haven't you done well? No, that's the Auntie Donna thing.
That's Auntie Donna as well. They're all too simple. And then I've just googled Tim Robson.
It's all gone to shit. Oh, it's all falling apart, man.
I think you should leave.
I think you should leave. Yeah.
Which is like just very fun, silly, light sketch stuff to have in the background. It sounds like a lovely little kind of mix between live game show Whose Line Is It Anywhere and tight sketch delivered comedy. Like, I think you should leave.
I think it's Murderville but nicer. It's Whose Line but like longer form and less professional. That's how I'd put it.
Oh, nice. Well, now James, put it again differently, because you are you're a contestant on the newly revived Australian comedy show Thank One Liner You're Here. Thank One Liner You're Here. And in this show, it's great. Everyone is very confused who you are when you come onto this show because they just don't have the cultural like appreciation and reference to really know who you are. They keep calling you this thing called the Bunyip Man. Everyone's like, "What the fuck's a bunyip?" But it's okay because after 6 episodes, they'll be like, "The Bunyip Man's here. I love him."
I like the irony of me going on an Aussie TV show and the audience being like, "What the fuck's a bunyip?" Of all the audiences in the world.
I'll be honest, Jamie. In my vision of the audience, they're all using VPNs and watching this in Britain. So
In the
that's
room.
implied. That's implied. I can only relate to an audience if I am that audience. That's how it works.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's great. It's a great show. You get to go on stage with all those wonderful, amazing Australian famous comedians like Harry Binmore and Johnson Johnson and Helen Hackleberry. And there's one particular scene that you're very well known for in this show, and it's where you walk on stage and Australian comedian superstar who was in the original series of the show but has come back for this revival, Jonas Garway, looks at you and goes, "Thank goodness you're here. I need a one-line review of Thank God You're Here."
Oh, yeah, delightfully light and fluffy entertainment format that pleases me greatly.
And then what proceeds is the single best episode of television that anyone's ever seen. But it wasn't recorded. The cameras broke, so no one ever saw it.
Yeah, shit. They
Classic.
never recorded it. They never filmed it.
Oh, no.
One of the guys was like, said to the director, "Camera's broken." The director, "Just keep going. Just pretend it's running. It's fine."
It's like, don't interrupt them. I need to see this. Like, this is for us. This is for us.
This is just for us in the room. All right. Well, that was Thank God You're Here. Aussie TV show. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to get a hold of, but if you can get it, it's good. All right, we're going to take a brief break, but when we come back, we'll be doing movies, we'll be doing games, and we'll be talking about our random Netflix movie of the month, which is More the Merrier. So join us for all of that in a moment. Okay, my friend sent me a thing of the top 5 cities based on average body count. And spoilers, but Brighton was first place, average body count 13. So much death.
There are 13 bodies in Brighton. I definitely saw like at least like 70 people in Brighton, unique individuals.
No, they're a lot of them are sharing bodies.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I think I might be the Spider's
judge.
Georg of Fordham. All right, we're gonna take a brief break, and then when we come back, we'll do podcast. I've already done that bit. I don't need to go through the whole thing again. Koto, like I'm trying to hit triple digits by the end of the day. Yeah, end of the year. Have you got like one of those clickers they have outside of nightclubs? Keep track.
I don't understand if we're talking about people that die or people that get banged by Koto anymore.
People that get banged by Koto, yeah. What? Why would Koto be bragging about his body count if it was people he'd murdered?
Well, okay, but there's a statement that says Brighton was first, average body count of 13.
Yeah.
And then I thought that the Spider's Georg of Fordham was somehow related to the body count statement. Then from that, why are people dying in the same?
What do you think body count means?
Dead people.
No. It means how many people you've slept with, Jonas.
Okay, but this is what I meant. Was I thought that
you'd know this if you read BBC News.
I thought the average body count was that 13 people were dying in Brighton like every something.
No. Why would that be the top 5 cities? Hit up Brighton if you want to see a dead body.
I thought the statement was, I live in a city with a high death count. I thought that was the statement that Koto was trying to make. Okay, I thought Koto was trying to tell us. Oh, did you know that a lot of people die in Brighton? Not do you know that a lot of people fuck in Brighton? Because that's not surprising. I know everyone fucks in Brighton.
Koto has a spreadsheet.
I believe that.
A spreadsheet about spreadsheets.
I so believe that. Yeah, nice. Well done.
Koto's asking for news on the ground. If Laura's seen any dead bodies tonight.
Yeah, Koto,
right.
do you rate them and do you color code them based on certain attributes?
And if they're alive or not.
Do you mark them alive or dead? And before or after?
Right, I'm gonna fuck me. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll see you in a moment, everybody. Is that we all share the nuts. So if Stu takes an executive decision to nut all over these birds in the cave, then that's half our nuts gone. I'm doing everything I can to lose all responsibility through incompetence.
Now I understand why Captain Hook was the way he was.
Again, democracy has failed.
Annoyed. Gay and annoyed.
He settled in front of me. He sat down.
Oh, happiness, but tale of maybe not happiness.
Your mouse pad is so hairy.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this is Civ 4.
Oh.
Wait, what? Oh my god, it is! Oh my. Oh. Man, he's just been playing Civ 4 this
I'm
whole
beyond
time.
useless.
It is now.
TikTok, it's 4 o'clock. Oh my god! Oh fuck! Oh god damn it! Oh Jesus Christ!
I teach maths.
There we go. Oh. Oh god!
Wow!
It was pathetic. She was making these gurgling sounds.
I'm a shower pisser, but I will not associate with the shower poopers. Okay. Goodbye, random forest woman.
I guess we'll never know.
Bye. Don't want to worry anyone, but we don't have a lot of wood. I saw wood. I've got the wood. I've got wood. Keep I've got some wood. Look at me cycling away. Here I go. Do it. So it's here, right? Now we're in a very menacing room full of gas canisters and blood. How delightful. Oops! Oh. Oh no! Oh, that's not good. Oh. Oh shit! Fucking hell! Oh my god! Every time! So we're dead man's fingering here, right?
Jesus. Oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
That's not. I didn't mean it to tell her that when I said it. You performed an act of terrorism outside of our house.
I know you didn't, but it still was fun.
No! Oh, that was so close. I'll always be thinking about Romney. No, Kate's dead.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is such a dramatic storyline.
Police brutality.
Wow.
What? Expensive whale hunts. You're not going anywhere, boy. You're going to the pit. Hold on. The foreign diplomats. The foreign diplomats.
It's like we're holding hands.
Beautiful. It's like we're holding hands next to the penis river. Welcome to the gay tricks. I can't wait to be in you.
Jamie, can you give me gay sex?
Grease me up! I'm going in!
Breeding.
Sir, please.
Culture.
God, this goo. There's so much goo.
It was like cry edging.
Oh no.
Breeding. Culture.
Stop saying breeding.
Stop saying breeding, please.
Breeding.
That's what we really needed, an image of groundkeeper really having an orgy.
Well, have you ever seen?
No. Never. No.
You spend time with your chosen bird, speaking to her and letting her get I'll shit myself live on air.
You wait till you see my Jamie pic.
What does that
Wait.
mean? Filth. Utter filth. That was the most they got, was that the horse had a French accent.
This map shows the entire Louvre area. The Louvre area.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I live down in the that way, like northeast, south, east, west, southeast.
And now everything's on fire. Oh!
You're shagging your dead son's wife.
Southern,
What?
why have you set these poor people on fire?
Everything from Toulouse to the Rue de Loire. Leave. Fucking. Most convenient.
Okay.
What are you doing with all these boats, Sylvan?
Vibing.
Threatening.
Can you vibe somewhere else?
Oh, you sweet summer child.
The police have done nothing. They've not cordoned this area off or anything.
What the hell have we built over there?
What's going on here, mate? What's happened? What's happened there? Who are these people? No one has come to this. Everything from Dueler is delivered. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, hold on. Oh,
Get it
gassy
out.
boy.
Get it out. Get it out of your boy.
Oh. Well, there we are. These complications are so great. I hope you're not having complications, Laura. I hope everything's all right. Contradiction was such a fucking wild time. It really was. Oh,
Yeah.
Merlin. Yeah.
I think other complications to do with contradiction, maybe.
Yeah, I would say so. Push her down with big stick. She did mean compilations, yeah. I was being silly. I was being a little stinker. Little cheeky boy.
You are a cheeky boy.
They are really good though, Steltech. They are awesome. I enjoy them every time. Right, we ready?
Just Koto making a reference that I have no.
It's quite a good joke.
No horse in this race.
It's a good joke. These complications are so great. The BBC team writing the Christmas episode of Call the Midwife. There's enough there for you to get the context of that joke.
I get the joke. I'm just also here like, well, I guess there's a BBC show called Call the Midwife, and I guess they do Christmas episodes.
You've not heard of the show? Oh my god! Oh my god!
No, James, I haven't. I've heard of Doctor Who. All right, that's what you get. And even then, I don't even know who the current Doctor Who is. Actually, it's the guy from Sex Education. I like him.
Yeah, you need to watch Call the Midwife for the next podcast.
No, the Netflix randomizer already abuses me enough.
I don't think it's on there. Let me have a quick look, see if it's on Netflix.
No, my point being is I will
know-
not be forced.
I
I
know.
refuse. I refuse.
But the Netflix randomizer might force you. Hold on.
It's not a film, is it? Unless the Christmas special counts.
Well, yeah, it's on iPlayer. Oh no. Oh, okay. Oh, the Thin Blue Line's on Netflix. Anyway, right. Well, I don't know. I don't know if the specials. Sometimes specials are. I don't know if there's a special. Yeah, I don't watch Called the Midwife. I just love it because I am a human being, a British human being who's
You are a
existed in the
British
world.
citizen. If I was given one of those citizenship tests, I'd fail it so hard.
yeah. They're all about Call the Midwife and Mrs. Brown's Boys. No,
I've heard of that one.
You've heard
No,
of
I've
that
heard
one?
of that one because Blockbuster, we the latest season or special came out. Like they did a movie on DVD, and it was god fucking awful to the point that if you rented it, I judged you on the spot. I knew what kind of person you were if you were renting Mrs. Brown's Boys.
Yeah. All right. Should we do a podcast?
Yeah, go on.
All right. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. It's movie time, and this month you're up first, Jonas. What are you talking about?
I'm gonna talk about Argylle. Argylle it's a comedy slash action film about an author called Ellie, who's played by Bryce Dallas Howard of Black Mirror and Jurassic World fame. Ellie, who, after writing several world-famous spy novels, finds herself being targeted by a spy network for how accurate her books are to real life. Ellie is then saved by another spy, sort of Aidan Wilde, played by Sam Rockwell from See How They Run or Jojo Rabbit, and has no run to I'm mixing up words there, and has no choice but to use her talents as an author to survive and take down the evil organization threatening her life. There are a few quirks that this film kind of has along the way. Ellie, having written stories about her own super spy named Argylle, who she fantasizes is played by Henry Cavill and partners up with John Cena on the reg, spends a lot of the film semi-hallucinating that all the cool spy stuff happening around her is actually being performed by her titular character, Argylle. Ellie also has a little cat that she puts into this special backpack. It's got one of those domes, like little dome window in it, and she carries this cat backpack everywhere, and it kind of acts as her animal companion slash comedy relief pet throughout the film. The cat is called Elfie, by the way. So the film Argylle is directed by Matthew Vaughn. Matthew Vaughn has also directed Kingsman and Kick-Ass. And it's very easy to see that Argylle kind of carries these like similar intentions with it. Like it's definitely got some of the DNA of those films in it. You can tell almost that it's from the same family tree. Fight scenes are dynamic with often like comedic use of slow down and sort of critical hits and things like that. But they're interspersed, like those moments of slow motion are interspersed with these really like fast, lethal moments of like watching 7 dudes get shot before you watch someone get thrown out a window in slow motion. And there are these, there are also these moments that play out kind of more like visual set pieces than actual kind of than the actual moments of a thrilling conflict. So if you've seen Kingsman, you'll have a really good idea of what I mean by that, like a sort of a visual set piece being a fight. Argylle kind of does that in its own way. Now, like any spy film, Argylle is filled with betrayals, secrets, plot twists, and arse pulls. Some feel genuine and earned. Most, however, do not. The number of times Ellie manages to solve a problem from nothing but her own flimsy sense of willpower is a point of frustration for me. But, what's a spy movie without some villains or like older recognizable actors sitting in a big chair surrounded by screens? To that end, the film has 2 rather notable names for this. playing the sort of the big villain is Bryan Cranston of Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle fame. Bryan kind of takes the lead as the director of the evil spy organization that's chasing down Ellie. Meanwhile, Samuel Jackson is sort of the Charlie to his angels in this film. From my perspective, Bryan Cranston is given a lot of fun roles and scenes where he gets to be kind of cartoonishly evil in a suit for half the film, whereas Samuel Jackson gets 5 minutes of sitting in a office by himself where he has to act like he's reacting really energetically to something he's learning about on his screen, but with nearly no interaction with any other actors, and that just seems a bit sad. Argylle has fun ideas and manages to execute certain tropes of the genre well, but with a lengthy runtime, a lot of unconvincing CG, and a rather disappointing main character, it can be very tempting to turn this off early and go watch some Austin Powers instead. Jamie, when I mentioned Argylle to you, you sounded like you'd heard of it. What do you know about Argylle prior to my description?
I remember seeing the trailer. I was interested in it because of Matthew Vaughn's work on Kingsman, and I'd forgotten that he did Kick-Ass, but I really liked Kick-Ass as well. And the trailer made it look like it was more of the same but a different plot. Is that what drew you into it, his pedigree on films, or did you just sort of pick it up because you saw it?
I clicked on it. I needed to watch something after watching Tetris.
I see, right, okay.
And at this point, anything would do.
Does it have a feel of Kingsman and Kick-Ass, or does it feel distinctly different to those?
It has a feel of Kingsman and Kick-Ass. It really does. It's got a lot of witty comedy and banter and humor. It's got the mentor-mentee relationship thing going on that are really prevalent in both of those films. And it's got a lot of that, again, that idea that there is combat and people die, but you're never actually worried about anyone ever. You know what I mean? No one that you care about will get hurt.
I guess, but that was actually one of the interesting things about the first Kingsman movie is explicitly there's one scene in that movie where that doesn't happen, which is, and that I think is what made that movie stand out from a sea of spy parody movies. It kind of sounds like Argylle doesn't pull off the same trick. Is there anything that makes this stand out from that kind of genre, or does it feel like it's just another one of those movies?
It feels distinctly like another one of those movies. The thing it feels like it might be doing uniquely is that it's got its female protagonist led. Because again, of all the examples I can name, they're largely male protagonists, male supporting characters, and a lot of male representation. But I don't think that's what makes this film bad at all. It just isn't that distinct otherwise. There's the whole the angle of wow, a spy author basically becomes a spy because she's so good at writing spy books. That's kind of a fun gimmick, but the film has this really strong visual identity that's present in Ellie's books. So anytime it's showing you a scene from her books, it's got a really strong visual identity to the point that it's almost corny, but it works. You can see that it's wow, look at this. This is obviously spy stuff. And then when it cuts to reality, Ellie's reality in the film, it is devoid of that same strong visual kind of element and that visual storytelling and that language of being a spy movie. And so because that only exists in her book, but it doesn't exist in her reality, the film doesn't have that same visual kind of, it doesn't have that vocabulary visually to say, look at this, look at us distinctly telling this cool spy story.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing, right? Because Matthew Vaughn's earlier movies, Kingsman and Kick-Ass, are really distinct visually. Kick-Ass with its superhero, sort of shabby superhero costumes, and Kingsman with its stylish sort of suit design and these sort of the way that they explain who characters are through their outfits and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of sounds like Argylle has that for some of it, and then needs a distinction in the rest of it, but that distinction kind of lies flat.
Yeah, like, you think of Kingsman, it's like, yeah, almost everything is done with the visual language of like gentlemanly culture, British, like, British kind of Britishisms of gentlemanly warfare, whatever. And you see it in the villains, and you see it in the actually like the counterpart that Samuel L. Jackson is, where he isn't gentlemanly. He's actually super aloof and super kind of talking off the cuff and serving everyone McDonald's at his like mega fancy corporate parties. And like that's so comedic, and it builds into this really good powerful sense of identity, whereas Argyle like has none of that. I think this film would be better if its identity was all about authors, if it was really strongly about like the language and the culture of like book writers and publishers, and if everyone's quirk was like their relationship to either reading these books and being a fan of maybe one particular element of her books or something like that. But that book stuff, it's quite well enforced for the first like quarter, maybe third of the film, and then everyone just kind of forgets about it. Like it's like, okay, you actually know the characters now, so we don't need to tell you, we don't need to remind you that this is where she came from. We're just going to stop talking about it, and it moves on to something else that just ends up being less distinct and less like exciting to interact with.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like when Matthew Vaughan's at his best, he's very good at creating distinct, pulpy, almost comic book esque like styles for his films. And what you're saying sounds a bit like the King's Men film, which was set in World War II and kind of lost all of its distinctness because everyone just looked like they were from World War II, rather than having like a sort of distinct element that set them aside from modern day kind of thing. It's interesting. I wanted to give it a go. I don't know if I still want to give it a go. It's not just your review that's turned me cold on it, but every other review. And it's good to hear that you're in line with everything else.
Like, I understand that Matthew might actually want to build some kind of like cinematic universe of his spy films.
Yeah.
The Vaughniverse. And it's just like, if he does that, please like give Argyle a stronger identity next time it gets revisited. If he plans on revisiting this, figure out what it is and give it like a really strong flavor of that one thing.
Do any of the King's Men turn up in Argyle?
Not that I noticed.
Wait,
and
if Samuel Jackson is
in
this,
Samuel Jackson is in
that
it.
doesn't make any sense.
He's not the same character at all. He's a completely different character.
Maybe there isn't going to be a Vaughniverse then.
Thrown in the bin.
God, I'm so miserable. All right, well, we'll move on to the one sentence review. Jonas, you are a prolific one sentence review writer. And every time you write a one sentence review of some kind of media, that's exactly how it was. That's exactly how good or bad it was. And it turns out that that there's like a secret agency who are trying to like control how good things are. Lost the thread of this a little bit. And they come to you and they need you to determine how good the movie Argylle is in a one sentence review in an effort to save the world. Jonas, can you do it? Can you save us all?
Argylle is not worth the bandwidth it's streamed on.
Wow, it's that bad.
Like, you know that phrase, it's not worth the paper it's written on, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah, except bandwidth is significantly cheaper than paper.
Well, I don't know what your mobile provider's like, but whatever.
Oh dear. All right. Well, that was Argylle. Don't watch it, I guess. Let's move on to my movie of the month, shall we? I'm talking about a movie called Wicked Little Letters. It's a movie that came out last year. It's a comedy film starring Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley. And it's set in the aftermath of World War One, where resident of the town Littlehampton, Edith Swan, played by Olivia Colman, starts receiving vile, abusive letters. Her controlling father, played by Timothy Spall, is quick to assume the culprit is their chaotic Irish neighbour, Rose Gooding, played by Jessie Buckley. While the local police are more than happy to assume that she's a wrong-un, the local women aren't so sure and work together with a driven female police officer to try and clear her name. Wicked Little Letters is fun and is a pacey comedy driven mostly by its two energetic leads. Olivia Colman is excellent as ever. We love her on the Bunyip review. We talk about her a lot. Her portrayal of a good, God-fearing woman creaking at the sides, full of pain waiting to get out, is mesmerising. She's a master of showing someone papering over the pain they feel, and that is fully on show here. In contrast, Jessie Buckley's portrayal of Rose Gooding is chaotic and free-flowing. She brings this woman to life, who has had to rebuild her whole self to protect her young daughter. With such energy and passion, she's an absolute pleasure to watch. The plot that binds them, while it focuses around a particularly unsurprising twist, is pacey and light for the most part. There are some darker elements. While it makes no great strides in being overtly unique, I described it as basically like a Miss Marple plotline when it comes down to it. Its subtleties explore the consequences of misogyny on men and women alike in interesting ways. Most of that message, though, really rides on the exceptional performances of the headline cast. Outside of that, the dialogue is good, but not great, and a lot of the supporting cast turn in performances worse than I've seen them do elsewhere. No one is bad, but I often think that when acting quality varies that much, it's because the director isn't really able to get the best out of his cast. So only the truly stellar actors actually end up looking great on screen. Still, if you can't be a great director, you can at least be a good casting director, and Coleman and Buckley are perfect for their roles. Wicked Little Letters is an energetic and enjoyable comedy, light but with a message and a heart. I would recommend it purely for some really standout performances that elevate an otherwise merely medium film to pretty good. Jonas, have you heard of this movie at all?
I've definitely seen the posters and some of the promotional materials around. Is this still in the cinema? Is that where you watched
No, it came out in the cinemas last year, but it went up on Netflix relatively recently. I think that was it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely saw bits, and I was like, "Ooh, nice, Olivia Colman in something." But then I guess from that was kind of it for me. Is that never kind of took me past the point of I will click play or purchase a ticket to watch this thing. And yeah, no. I'm glad to. Like, I think you've made it describe almost exactly as good as I thought it might be. But I just never actually put down the time to actually kind of see it.
It's a smaller film that I think was intending to ride on the name value of Olivia Colman, and Olivia Colman just brings her everything to everything she ever does. So it is as good as any other. Well, her performance is as good as her performance in anything else, and that in itself is worth the ticket to entry. But I do think that despite that, Jessie Buckley is brilliant as well in it, and both of them are worth turning up for their performances. And Timothy Spall, to a lesser account, he's not in it as much, but he does a very powerful performance as a quite abusive father.
You mentioned that there was like a driven detective that like helps to clear Rose Gooding's, Jessie Buckley's name.
Yes.
Who plays that? Do you know? Is the character? I'm trying to, because I'm just looking through the cast, and when you said that they were driven, I'm quite interested to see.
So
I mean, there's.
So this is an interesting thing I didn't actually put in my review because it didn't. I couldn't work out a way to write it in, but I talked about this a bit with Laura after we watched it. So this movie is colorblind cast, right? So it's set just after the war. But there are lots of people of various different ethnicities who play roles that might not have made sense for the time. And sure. My view on it, or not my view, but what I thought they might be doing is saying that this movie is explicitly about just after World War One, not World War Two. What I thought they may be doing is saying that this movie is explicitly about women's experience in this moment and the wider understanding of how misogyny affects people, and almost explicitly taking the race idea out of it, saying it's clear we're not talking about race because of how we've cast this movie. But Laura said that with so much else of it being of a period, that colorblind casting kind of, especially when we knew it was dealing with a heavy issue, sort of was a bit jarring at first. And that's not to say that any of the actors did a bad job, because they were all very good. In particular, it's Anjana Vasan plays Gladys Moss, who is the female detective. She does a great job of it. But the movie focuses on her sort of the way that the men dealt with her being a woman policeman, and that they sort of treated her as less than because she was a woman. But she is also Asian, and you would have expected, at least by my rudimentary understanding of the time period, that might also factor into some of the problems she had, and that doesn't factor into it at all. Laura points out that there's also an element of anti-Irish sentiment. I would argue that that there's actually very little of that, and a lot of it is focused on that as a way of making her an outsider in a way. But there is definitely some of that, and the colorblind casting maybe muddies the water as to what's important there and what isn't. But that being said, I think that, like, you know, Anjana Vasan is the right person for the job, if the job is that that race doesn't matter in this story. She did a very good job being that character, and I loved watching her in it. It would be interesting to see why they made that choice for this story in particular.
Yeah, I guess part of me is like trying to do a little bit of sleuthing now, just to see if there's like any clear commentary on.
I did a bit of a Google afterwards to see if there was any discussion about it, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, it's I'm glad to sort of. It is quite interesting to see that colorblind casting element. It's not something that I've really picked up on, but then you know, I'm also quite famously someone that doesn't really watch period historical, you know, sort of, you know, World War timey stuff. I'm always watching the anime and my superhero bits.
There's been a bit of it in recent years. You know, Bridgerton is now, you know, is colorblind cast.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
There was the what was it? Great Expectations, or no, what was it? There was a Dickens story that Armando Iannucci did, and that was colorblind cast as well. I think that you need to establish, like, what message you're trying to get, like what meaning you're trying to get across in your show, right? And Bridgerton is not about race, explicitly not. It's a soap opera set in this time period, and it's about that kind of thing. And I like, you know, the Armando Iannucci film that I cannot remember the name of right now, but that also isn't about that. It's about class explicitly, and it focuses on that heavily. And I think that it, by colorblind casting, you may be sending a message that you need to be aware you're sending that message. You are building a meaning that you need to be aware you are building that meaning. And I don't know if this movie goes all the way to getting that across in a way.
Okay. But I guess that's you didn't walk away from this film thinking like, wow, that film really wanted to tell me about this relationship between, you know, race and women and of its time.
No,
I suppose
what I will say is I personally, when I finished, like, the first time I saw an Asian character playing a character I didn't expect to be Asian, I was like, that doesn't make sense in my knowledge of this time period. But then I immediately just went, okay, that's how this movie is. And by the end of it, like after the movie, I was like, I understand what the meaning of this movie is intended to be, and I assume the colorblind casting is to say that we're not dealing with that part of it. Laura said that she felt that there was more of a focus on the anti-Irish sentiment than I felt that there was. And if you take that into like the understanding of the movie, then there is a talk about racism, but it only affects one specific person in this village and no one else. And that starts to muddy that understanding of how they've done this. but I don't know. It didn't bother me. I like the movie just the same, and I like, I think it's a really well, interestingly told story about misogyny. I just don't know why they made that choice, but it didn't bother me.
Nice. Okay. Nice. James,
Yes.
you are living your best life. A big old war has just come to an end, and you're minding your own biz, and then suddenly you get it's the modern day, by the way. So you get an email, you get an abusive email, and it just says horrible things about you, like your glasses are all wrong, and you're no good at Hitman, and Laura rallies to your defense and says, "I know exactly who did this. It's that person over there. I won't pick on a specific friend, but we all have an idea of what friend it could be." And over the course of trying to find out who did this thing, there's many hijinks and sillies, and there are detectives get involved, private detectives get involved, and Jamie, eventually, you discover that under the root of everything that is going wrong in your life, Jamie, you actually discover that the real thing to blame is toxic gamers, and you discover that toxic gamers can be solved with a single line review of wicked little letters. Look, you did a bad one, I'm doing a bad one.
I've done more than one bad one.
What's your go for it?
An energetic little comedy from two powerhouse performers.
Lovely. Excellent stuff.
Right, that was Wicked Little Letters. And now it's time for the game section. And Jonas, you're up first. What are you telling us about this month?
I'm going to tell us all about Cassette Beasts. Cassette Beasts is developed by Bitten Studio and published by Raw Fury. It's a pokey-like video game released in 2023 on Steam, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Now, it's going to be very difficult to avoid comparisons to Pokemon when talking about Cassette Beasts, so I'm going to try very hard to just talk about it, what it is in its own merits and without sort of comparison, and then I'm sure we'll get into comparison later on. So Cassette Beasts is a game in which you create your own character, and also it, by the way, the game is completely flexible about your body types and your pronouns, by the way, so that's nice. And that character you create then wakes up on a mysterious island, having disappeared from their own. Everyone on this island has gone through the same thing, coming from different worlds, sometimes different years, sometimes like sort of like completely different realities. And this island has now, over time, sort of, it's got its own settlements, it's got some distinct biomes, but its main feature is that it's kind of covered in strange monsters of varying shapes and sizes. To explore the island and discover a way back home, your character signs up as a ranger, and you are given one of the key tools necessary to survive on this island: a cassette player. With this cassette player, you are able to record the monsters you encounter onto a cassette and then listen back to that cassette, transforming you into the monster in question. You're then able to use its abilities in a turn-based combat. Throughout the game, you'll team up with different rangers, fighting as a team of two and then creating teams of monsters, or rather cassette beasts, that you can both transform into. Each of the cassette beasts have their own type, which have advantages and disadvantages against each other. For example, a metal type will rust if attacked by a water type, thus lowering its defenses. Or if a fire type strikes a water type, the water type will be surrounded by a steam that gently heals them over time. Certain attacks also require ability points to activate, or AP. So at the beginning of a battle, your monster will only have a few ability points, which means you can only really use your simplest abilities or attacks. But as the fight goes on, you gain more ability points, allowing you to use more powerful abilities. And it's as you master these abilities and battle with these monsters, you'll discover a strange type of monster called Archangels, and discover that they may be the key to leaving the island. Each of your ranger partners will also have their own side quest to complete. And while you're playing the game, you're also invited, quite optionally, to defeat ranger captains, which will let you sort of increase your rank as a ranger and gain access to unique upgrades. One thing I haven't said about the game is that it's open world. You're allowed to navigate through it at your own pace. There is no correct order to the optional captains. There's no order to the archangels or the side quests. Not to mention, you're able to sort of sprint and jump and use like sort of maneuverability abilities as you explore the world, like dashing through rocks or gliding over big gaps and things like that. And then at some point as well, the game lets you fuse monsters together, allowing you to kind of combine their move list and types into one powerful monster. One particular kind of really cool highlight and feature of this game is that every single monster can fuse together, making thousands and thousands of unique results. And almost every result is sort of a little visual delight and a surprise. Everything from the open world, the interaction between monster types, the ability to build relationships with your rangers, and the way that monsters and their moves are handled kind of just fills me with this sense, this feeling that I can only really encapsulate in the word like finally. See, the changes and improvements that Cassette Beasts make, like they're just really welcome changes on the Pokemon formula. I have tried to play this game several times. I think it has quite a slow beginning that makes it really hard for you to appreciate what this game is and really kind of sink your teeth into it. But I'm really glad that I did, because once you start playing it and once you start getting into it, you get to really appreciate some of the same gameplay loops that like make Pokemon enjoyable. But after you've played literally the same Pokemon games 9 times in a row and you've paid AAA full prices for those video games that don't really innovate or improve on themselves in any dramatic way, it is just a real delight to find something like Cassette Beasts, which sells itself at an indie price, not a full price AAA rate, goes on sale frequently, is having updates like multiplayer features that are just coming out in the last few weeks and DLC, and just really gives you that sense of like that solving this drought of new ideas that I think exists in this kind of Pokemon space, where Temtem and Cassette Beasts have sort of come in to fill those in their own ways. I think Cassette Beasts done a great job. Jamie, have you played any of this game? Have you seen any of this game? Do you know anything about Cassette Beasts?
I feel like I've heard about Cassette Beasts. I'm not sure why I would have done, because they're not normally my kind of games, but it sounds interesting. How many Cassette Beasts are there, Jonas?
So I haven't found them all yet, James, if I'm honest with you. Now, we all know that the original Pokemon had 151 Pokemon. At a quick glance, the DLC added 12 monsters, bringing them to 141, which means that the base game has about 129, I guess.
That's not bad. That's not bad, especially when they're doing all these combinations. The combination thing, is the combination you get afterwards like designed, or is it just like a sort of generated mishmash of the two?
I think it's a generated mishmash of the two. It's almost like going to that Pokemon fuser, and
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
but it is like quite special. Like, I don't know, you'll get a Pokemon that's like made up like a traffic cone crab, for example. You'll get a monster that's a traffic cone crab, and you'll get a Cassette Beast, sorry, that is like a wizard. And then the result will have like, you know, his body has now turned into a traffic cone, but one of his hands is also like the crab of a crab, you know, the claw of a crab, sorry. And the crab of a crab, I know. And it's like, oh, okay, like they've implemented it so that the system clearly knows how to pull the asset apart into 4 or 8 constituent parts, whatever, and put them together and mix and match them. Something I didn't mention as well, I really love this. Every monster can be any type. So the thing that you find, so the fire type monster is a fire type monster. But you have the ability in battle to turn it into a water type. Or if you find a shiny, it can be literally any type. You can find a shiny water type, but this time it's the plastic type, or this time it's the space type, or this time it's the electric type, because shinies get to break the type sort of tree for all these monsters.
So are you saying that you can change it at will, or that you can find that monster as a different type?
Both. You can get an ability that changes the type of the monster to whatever you want it to be.
Right.
So if I don't like that my fire type is a fire type, I can just give another monster the ability called water coating, and then I can use the ability water coating to turn my
Okay.
fire monster into a water monster, and now most of its abilities become water types, and it's quite interesting.
This is interesting, but one of the nice things about one of the things that cemented Pokemon as the sort of leader in this, well, the only one in its space for a long time, is the simplicity of that sort of rock paper scissors system, and the sort of simplicity of the way that combat works. Does all the new stuff that they've added, like instead of it just being a weakness system, it being it actually creates a different kind of effect system for type matches, and changing types of monsters and things like that, so you don't necessarily know what you're going to see and all this kind of stuff. Does that feel too dense, or does it feel just right?
Because I am not a 8-year-old child using a Game Boy, it feels so incredibly like what I need.
Right.
Because Pokemon has never, like, the type charts in Pokemon have basically just been the same for like the last 20 years. This introduces like a really cool element of strategy and like technique and mastery and finesse to the battle system that, like, I don't think Pokemon's really made interesting in years. Like, there's competitive Pokemon out there, but everyone knows that, like, there's like three moves are the best moves, and if you use any other moves, like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in Quick Attack? That sort of idea. Like, there are just some moves that just get phased out. But because this game has the energy element as well, so a weak move uses 1 energy and a powerful move uses 8 ability points. So weak moves will always be valid because you might have a playstyle that utilizes using less energy, allowing you to save up for the big hit at the end. Whereas you might use a medium move on turn 3, but now you've got no points. You're never going to get to your big move. You're never going to get to that finishing attack if your monster happens to have that in its repertoire. So there's something to be said for, like, this game is more strategic, and it is challenging you more often to master its combat system.
Do you feel like it's aimed at an older audience?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely aimed at like hello, are you tired of Pokemon? Like, have you done Pokemon? Are you a bit done with it? Play Cassette Beasts. And I don't know, there's nothing stopping someone playing this as their first ever like monster battler game. And I dare say that you'd still have fun because it does teach you. It teaches you how to do it. It teaches you how to play this. And if you don't want to master it, that's fine. Just be strong. Just level up. Just have a team that you love and use that team. But if you want to experiment, if you want to play all the monsters and you want to use all their abilities, then you have this system to play around with and explore and navigate and play with. And it's fun. It's dynamic. You know how in Pokemon, if a Pokemon learns a move and you make it forget it, it's a pain to get it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they have 4 moves and nothing else. In this game, moves are just equipable. So it's like, I unequip this move and it's in my inventory. I can put it back later. I can actually give it to a different monster if I want to. So, if my monster has headshot gun and it uses 5 energy, but actually his ranged attack's really weak, I'll just take it off him and I'll give it to something else that has a high ranged attack stat.
Does that feel like a lot to deal with? Like, does that feel like a lot of inventory clutter, or is it reasonable?
I think it's reasonable because if you ignore it, then every monster just gets all the moves that it would learn naturally. So it's like,
right,
you get the purest version of that monster. But if you're loving the systems and you want to master it, and you maybe want to like take on challenges a bit above your level, especially because it's open world, right? So you can go grind and level up and then be strong enough for the strong stuff. Or you can come into this system and be like, I'm going to fuck something up that I shouldn't be able to touch. because I've mastered, like, I've taken away all my moves, I've played around with the systems, I've min-maxed, I've got the perfect duo here, and I know how the type differences work, so I'm going to leverage that. I'm going in hard and I'm going to master this video game. I think that's what it lets you do.
It sounds like an interesting twist on the formula. Jonas, you have been sucked up from your normal everyday life, from your normal modern life, and you've been deposited on an island with a bunch of other people from different times and universes and worlds, and on the island is a bunch of one-sentence reviews that go round and cause havoc. And you have been given a cassette recorder, and you've got to go up and you've got to record one-sentence reviews, and then you can deliver them on a podcast later on. And you eventually find the one you've been looking for, the Cassette Beasts one-sentence review. You record it, and it sounds like...
Press play on this one.
Very good. Wow. You'll have a job in radio in no time. Right.
Gunshot noise, gunshot noise, gunshot noise, air horn, air horn, air horn.
And one day we'll have the budget to actually have those sound effects. That was Cassette Beasts. It sounds fun. It sounds good. Is it on PC or is it just on console?
At the beginning of my review, Jamie, I believe I said it's available on Steam, which includes
PC. Oh, you did.
I
didn't
Xbox
listen to
and
that.
Nintendo Switch.
Oh, well, it's written down here as Nintendo.
You're not wrong. I'd also like to point out, Jamie, that it's actually on your. It's on your. I think it's on your wish list.
Is it?
I think it's on your wish list.
Let me have a look. Hold on.
Wait, let's just fact check that one.
Shit, it is on my wish list.
Well, there you go.
Wow. How did that happen?
Yeah.
It just goes to show that my wish list has no relation to the actual games I want.
I
do want that game now. I do want that game now, but I have no memory of it.
Yeah. No, and I'm just looking at it. It's like, gosh darn, it's not even £17, and a full price Pokemon game is 60 quid these days.
It's crazy how cheap some games are now, and how expensive other games are. All right, we're going to move on to my game of the month. And this month, I'm talking about a sequel. I think I reviewed the first game on this podcast. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm talking about Cities Skylines 2, the sequel to the acclaimed city builder game, Cities Skylines, hence the name Cities Skylines 2. This game was released to some controversy, but what AAA release in recent memory hasn't. It was launched as a buggy, unoptimized mess, and that's just the way things are now. But as is the way that we buy games now, because of this, I waited till it had its first big update and that people were saying it worked before I took the plunge. And that time has finally come. I loved the first game. I love it so much. We stream it monthly on this channel. I've played so much of that game. So I was curious to see what would make a sequel worthwhile. On first glance, it doesn't look hugely different. The graphics feel largely similar. They have done some improvements, but I don't think you would notice them just right off the bat, as does the general UI. But there are some fundamental changes in core systems that I think are why this deserved a full reset. First is the citizens of your city, which is like the core of any city builder. Unlike the first game, where they appeared and disappeared as the game needed them to help simulate a sense of life, in Cities 2, every citizen has a home and a job, and they physically need to move between those two things. And this changes a lot of how you need to think about cities. Traffic management is now far more granular. Building a housing development actually adds that many people to that area who now need to use those local roads. They even have their own cars now that need to be parked, meaning you need to make car parks and think about the capacity for parking on the side of roads. And they've also fundamentally changed the way that road building works. Where before, if you connected a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road, you would always get an intersection between those two. Now every lane of a road is treated independently. And this means you can have smooth transitions between road types, but it also means you can build more realistic lane connections. You can have slipways on motorways. You can have a single lane lead off to off of a gyratory while the other two carry on forwards. You can finally build roads that look and act like real life roads. Other changes feel smaller and more granular. Unlocking construction and road types is now locked behind a tech tree, allowing you to decide what you want to build in your city next, though so far I've not felt a meaningful impact for that. Service buildings are now upgradable, allowing you to improve a hospital with additional departments rather than building just a new hospital next door. And buildings that require an area to work, like landfill, for example, have a new drawing mechanism so you can allocate different shapes of land for them instead of having to just use a square like default. But the real fundamental change is that this game feels harder than the first one. Money is harder to come by, everything feels more expensive, and the way that citizens operate require you to be a lot more focused on solving transport and infrastructure problems in a timely manner. This is really your first impressions, as I've not had a huge amount of time to delve into it, but I think where Cities Skylines 2 is at right now is worth the upgrade. I still enjoy the first game, but I enjoy the second one differently. Cities Skylines 2 deepens core features in interesting ways to create a game that, while it might look similar, feels fundamentally different. Maybe that sheen will wear off and the difficulty will make me want to head back to the chill city building of the first game. But for now, I'm really enjoying it. Jonas, were you a Cities fan? You don't strike me as a city builder player very much.
I have not played a city builder or sort of spatial simulator video game since I think I was a teenager. That's not to say that I wouldn't enjoy one if you sat me down and kind of put it on, but I don't go out of my way for them, and I'm a busy boy. So yeah, I haven't played it. I see you stream this sometimes. I see you with your weird roundabout foibles and your, I don't know, you built some kind of amusement park or something on this weird slope that one time. So yeah, I've seen bits and I'm very aware of what is compelling about these games. Like I can see myself getting into it if it were me. I guess one of my first questions is like when you start the game, what gets the ball rolling for you to have? Because I understand that when you're deep in the game, what keeps you going back is that you've got problems to solve, and the whole game is just solving problems, right? And you're like, oh, I need to make this better. I need to make this better. I don't have enough this, so now I'm going to make this to solve that problem. But at the beginning of the game, what gets that ball rolling? Like, what's the first problem you're trying to solve?
So all of these games, from City Skylines all the way back to SimCity and like the earliest city builder kind of games in this mold, they always start really simple. They basically say you have the road tool and the zoning tool. You can place road, you can build residential zone, commercial zone, and industrial zone, and then you wait for the people to come and fill out those zones. And I think the first time you play the game, especially if you have the tutorials on, that initial opening will be, there is a big green bar that says that you want residential zone, a big blue bar that says you want commercial, and a big yellow one that says you want industrial. Fill those needs. Find a way to fill those needs. When you have played the game a lot, when you are a more seasoned player of this kind of games, that opening salvo or that opening moment is less, let's just get some stuff on the ground so we can get this city going, and more, the decisions I make right now are going to fundamentally matter when this is an enormous city. Because almost certainly the first road I place will end up being right in the middle of this city. And every game of City Skylines I've ever played, that road has ended up being a snarled mess of traffic that needs completely rebuilding at some point in the future. I think that how I kick off a new game and what gets me going is just the feeling that like early on there are no problems. Like you've got sort of a blank canvas and you're free to go, and you have that voice in the back of your mind that says you should be thinking about the future right now, but you don't know what the future will be. And so you start off with sort of like a fun grand design, and then later on it's going, oh, why did I do that? Like, why is that road there? If I delete that road, I destroy half the city, but it's got to go.
What elements of the city are out of your control? I think that's would be quite interesting to me, right? Because you build the city, but I know you can get like natural disasters.
You can get
which
natural
those are obviously
disasters,
meant
yeah.
to be, and those are obviously meant to be like setbacks that you have something to scramble and solve. But is there anything else out of your control? Like, are there like events in the city, for example, that like you have to kind of adapt around?
So the big thing that Skylines 1 did really well was that and what set it apart from SimCity was that it had a really good simulation of like flow of people, and the idea that like you didn't have like specific call out problems, as it were. Like natural disasters didn't come into City Skylines 1 for like a long time into its life cycle. They added a DLC later on that added them in, but early on, the main thing you were dealing with is the idea of like a flow in the city. Like you were building a simulation, and that you're like the problems were normal city problems, right? That like the population had built up in this city so much that certain junctions or certain entry points into the city were becoming problematic, and you needed to understand the flow of the city and the networks. What City Skylines 2 has done, it's kept the natural disasters right from the beginning, but what it's also done is deepened what that simulation is and how that simulation works. It has things like, now instead of citizens being like a representation of the flow of the city, they are agents who have a house and have a job, and that means that they don't just snarl up roads that would get snarled up in real life. They snarl up roads near where they live, and that starts to change how you have to think about those problems. They have a percentage chance of being a bad driver, and if they crash on the only highway that comes into your city, that fucks up the whole city. So now you need to start thinking, maybe I need redundancy. Maybe I need to build a city that thinks about what would happen if one single roundabout had an accident on it. Those are the kind of problems that you're dealing with. It looks like a simulation of a city, but it feels like a simulation of a bunch of tubes with sand falling down, and you're trying to get the sand to flow in the nicest way. Like that's, you're dealing with flow, you're dealing with like fluids kind of thing. That's what it kind of feels like.
Dealing with fluids.
Yeah, it's not a squirt person shooter, but it could be.
Nice. And then it's been a bit controversial for technical issues. Is that
it's
how
running?
Are you with that?
It's running fairly well on my computer. Apparently, when it first came out, every single individual citizen had every one of their teeth rendered, which had an impact. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so fucking dumb. Okay.
Yeah. But it's running a lot better now. And another big thing they had was that they had like the economy ran in a very different way. I've never played the version of it where the economy ran in like 1.0 mode. But they did a huge amount of shifts before I started playing that made the game harder and more complicated things. I think when it came out, people felt it was quite simplistic and not like a general upgrade on the first game, and also a sort of performance nightmare. But you know, now I'm playing it, it feels basically. I've had a crash, I've had a few graphical bugs, but I also had those things on a lot of games I love when they first came out, so I can overlook them.
Nice. No, glad to hear it. I'm glad you're having fun with it. I'm glad it's getting for the better, and it's, you know, it's content. You're making some content out of it. Hashtag influencer. But now, James, you shall be influenced by the following situation. Jamie, your job is to maintain a very complex environment of reviews.
A simulation of reviewers.
A simulation of reviews. Yeah, it's like the Matrix Code but all the code is actually just trickling critics and comments and reviews from IMDb and Metacritic and stuff. And you can see it. You can see the code, and and you shape it into roads, into buildings. Once upon a time, this data could simply be a representation of reviews. But now there are real reviews making real journeys from real keyboards to real websites to real readers' eyeballs, each with their own each pixel of every letter rendered in painstaking detail to the point that it nearly crashed your entire program for and got you bad reviews. How ironic. But now, Jamie, you've realized that you've made a problem. You've made a mistake. You haven't got any redundancies for one particular stream of reviews, and so you build in a new redundancy to this stream of reviews. But this new redundancy, it's going to have to be coded with one particular review, and that one particular review is a one-line review of Cities Skylines 2. I'm fucking done with this metaphor. What do you say?
Not a straight line upgrade from the first, but an improvement nonetheless.
And at that, 3 crashes happen, and but don't worry, you build a redundancy, so the city keeps on going.
Lovely. All right, that was the end of the movie section. Let's move on to our final section, everybody's favourite section.
That was the end of the game section.
Sorry, the game section. You're
games
absolutely
section.
right. For some reason, my buttons that should update the stream title can't update the stream title. So I'm just going to do that manually, like it's 1895. Right, there we go. We're moving on to the Netflix randomizer section, and this month we watched a movie, a Spanish movie called More the Merrier. I don't have its original Spanish title written down here, but that is what it's called in English. And it's a sexy comedy about polyamory. Now, I quite like this film. So what I will say is, I would recommend this movie to people who like sort of nuanced views of polyamory or homosexuality in cinema. It's funny, it's light. If you are interested in that, I would recommend watching it. And if that is the case, I'd recommend watching it without listening to this segment. I will come up with some way in the audio podcast. There'll be a way to know when we're done. In this version of the podcast, I don't know. Come back in a bit. But if you just want to hear us chat about movies, then stick around. We're gonna talk about it. The movie is basically 5 separate stories that interweave. So what I propose, Jonas, is that we alternate taking a story and talking about it. So you go first. Pick a story to talk about.
All right, I'm going to pick the one that has the least interweaving because I'm going to pick the couples at home.
Okay.
So am I right to just go ahead and start talking everywhere?
Yeah.
We'll dive in.
If you hold on, if you're going away because you don't want spoilers, go now. 3, 2, 1. Spoiler zone. Okay.
Close the door behind you, you disgusting. Come on. All right. So yeah, there are 5 different like groups or stories in this film, and there's one in particular that like doesn't intersect at all. So I'm going to talk about them in isolation, just because it makes a lot of sense. They're kind of a short story in and of their own. This story starts with a couple arriving at another couple's house. Now, I don't remember everyone's name, right? So we're going to sort of say like male host and female host, and then there's male guest and female guest, right? Because these are male and female, man woman couples, married couples, spending time with each other. So hosts and guests meet at the front door. They do the normal pleasantries. They're looking forward to a nice evening of dinner and a couple of drinks. And as the two sort of women enter the house and walk off, the two men have like a little private conversation. And the male guest, not the host, the male guest, sort of has this like sort of light blonde, platinum blonde, like foppish hair, sort of says to his host friend, like, all right, tonight's the night. We're gonna do it tonight. Okay, it's gonna happen. Like, but the main thing is that we can't tell them that we planned for this to happen. That'll fucking ruin the whole thing, all right? Now, I brought some matches, and just let's go. Let's do this. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. Oh my god. And then what kind of proceeds to happen is as the film goes on, we visit other characters and we come back to this house. And within this house, the two couples have a lovely dinner party. And throughout the dinner party, there's like things being alluded to, but largely prompted by the men, which is like largely talking about like their sexual history, or like there's one story in particular where one of the men's like, oh, hey, wife, do you remember when we opened our tent at that camp and we found one of the girls naked in our tent? Oh my god, what a crazy time to think we almost had a three-way. What if? And everyone kind of awkwardly is, well, not everyone's kind of awkwardly, but it is quite awkward because it's the first prompting of this context, this discussion kind of at the table. And it's clear that the men are maybe in on an idea that maybe they'd like to try and uh, do a sexy thing as a group, but the women have no idea. So to them, it's all a bit unprompted and a bit unusual. But they're all comfortable in their marriage, and it's like that weirdness kind of dissolves over time. They have dinner. They get pretty drunk. They have like more discussions about each other. They're talking quite openly about like maybe a couple of sexual histories and things like that, in the way that really close friends, really close couples probably are quite honest about that thing, because they're comfortable in their marriages and their years of being friends. And it's as they get slightly tipsy and drunk, they initiate a sort of truth or dare game. There's a funny mechanic that involves a match burning, and if you are holding the match when it goes out, you have to do the truth or dare. Don't worry about that. The point is that the men mostly engineer the situation so that the women have to do most of the truth or dares. In fact, one of the guys becomes a little bit too overpowering about the situation. It causes conflict for no more than 5 seconds. And as they get sort of drunker and into their truth or dares, they start to get more risque, a little bit more like take that item of clothing off, touch that person there, etc. All of this culminates in exactly what the guys wanted. The host is a little bit unsure of himself, by the way. The host is a little bit unconfident. He needs a lot of convincing from his guest. His guest is giving him lots of pep talks in the other room, saying like, "We can do this. We're all gonna fuck. I'm gonna fuck your wife, and you're gonna fuck my wife. It's gonna be great. Yeah." And they're being sort of like weirdly candid. At one point, there's a discussion about whether the host might have a smaller penis than his guest, and he has concerns that if the guest has a massive penis that he's about to fuck his own wife with, he's a bit worried that that might basically essentially cuck him. He might get actually, his wife might like this other guy more, and that would ruin their relationship.
There's a good joke where they measure their penises by like turning around and holding up with his fingers, and the host holds up his fingers, and it's like that. And then the guest, who doesn't want to overshadow him because he wants this to happen, holds his fingers out like that, and then goes, "See, we're the same size."
For our audio listeners, what you need to understand there
Oh
is,
yes,
is
sorry.
yeah, is the guest essentially communicates, I have an average or small penis. And no, sorry, the host has a average or small penis, and the guest has a massive donger. And yeah, it's shown on camera him like actually
Holding his fingers quite far out, yeah.
Yeah, like he starts off with a massive pose with his fingers, a full L shape, and then actually squints his fingers together and pinches them really tightly to make that slightly smaller shape, so that he's like, look, see, we've got the same size penis, it's fine. But yes, so that is a concern, which, to be fair, it's quite a good portrayal of that conversation between two men who are like, confident that they're about to fuck each other's wives, essentially. but addressing that that idea that you might have body confidence issues when swinging, like that might be like a real thing that you don't know how to deal with, or that you might not know how to approach. It's quite interesting. And then eventually it happens. They all agree. They're all drunk, and they all agree that they're gonna swing. And it starts off with the wives swapping partners, and doing a bit of making out and stuff. And then the two wives turn to each other, and they start to do a bit of making out. And the guys go, yeah, look at this. Oh my God, that's our wives. Oh, this is so fucking hot. And we leave them alone for a bit. And then we revisit the scene, and the two men are pouring themselves drinks in the kitchen, just in their underwear and half unbuttoned shirts, while the women are having full-blown sex on the sofa and loving it. They are fucking loving it. And the men are just sort of awkwardly like, should we try and like interrupt them? And the consensus is no, you shouldn't. You should just let them get on. The two women happily climax, and fall asleep in each other's arms on the sofa. To which the men agree that they shouldn't wake them up. One of them says, "You shouldn't wake up my wife. She'll fucking kill you," basically. And so the men just sort of drink and, I don't know, pass the time. Their eventual date ends in a very polite acknowledgement of what a fun time this has been. The wives in particular having a long, deep kiss before they go to their respective homes. And it's basically agreed upon that for the rest of their lives, while these husbands will continue to have a really healthy marriage and relationship and sex with their wives, the wives will largely be thinking of each other.
Yeah, there's a good joke at the end where the host and his wife are having sex, and his wife calls out the name of the other woman, and he goes, you're supposed to call out my name," and she just calls the other woman's name out again, and he's like, "Well, the sex is pretty good, so I guess I don't mind."
Like she's having a great time, and he's like, "Well,
okay,
if
fine.
you're having, okay, I'll just keep going. You're not thinking about me, but actually that's fine.
That's fine. I don't mind." So story 2, I'll go with the bride and the bridesmaid and their hen do. So,
they're a lot of fun.
The bulk of the movie is set in a club called Club Paradiso, which is a swingers club, or like a sex club. And early on, we're introduced to these two women who wake up with like an intense hangover, and they have no idea what they did the night before. And one of them is set to get married the next day, and she's missing her engagement ring. And they find a matchbook from Club Paradiso, and they decide they're going to go there and see if they can find out what happened to their ring. When they turn up, the owner of the club meets them at the door and tries to throw them out for the heinous things that they did throughout that night. And they're like, "Look, please, just let me find out what happened to my ring, and then we'll go." So she lets them in, and they go, and the first thing they do is they go to the swimming pool, which was apparently where they spent most of their time. And they have a look around, and they meet a couple who we've met earlier in the film, and they basically say that, this couple fucked the bride and her bridesmaid, and this bride didn't seem that interested in the idea of marriage when it happened. But no, they don't know where the wedding ring is. They then they then realize that they have like a key card, and they start trying to find out where this key card goes to. So they travel through the building, and they encounter a couple of other characters that we will mention later on. And then they eventually find this room, that the private room. They go in the private room, and they're looking around the private room, and it's full of sex toys and things, and they're like, "I don't know, we can't find it." And then one of them opens a cupboard to find that there's a man tied up in this cupboard, and they untie him and remove his ball gag, and he reveals to them that he has been tied up in this cupboard since yesterday when they came into the club, and has been there for about 24 hours. And in his words, he told his wife he was only going to the supermarket. He then also tells them that the bride didn't seem that interested in having in getting married, and very much wanted to continue to have sex with other people. And then this man threatens to call security on them unless one of them helps him get off. And so the bridesmaid says, I'll take it from here. Don't you worry. You go look for the ring. I'll deal with this man. And as the bride leaves the room, you hear the bridesmaid threatening to step on his balls and spanking him. And then eventually the bride goes to the bar is an area that we see quite a lot in the movie. And has a chat with the bartender who she met at the beginning, and the bartender says, look, I know where your ring is. And they go into this back room, and it's in his locker, and he says, I have this ring because you gave it to me, because we had sex and then you said you didn't want to get married, so you gave me the ring. He's like, I don't remember any of this. And he's like, I can help you remember it. And they have sex right there. She sort of gets a bit sort of all in her head about it, and she decides, look, I'm going to have to go meet my fiance at his stag do, because early on he calls her to say that he's at his stag do and he's having a great time. I need to meet him at his stag do, and I need to call off the wedding. And she goes, and when she arrives, she's like, oh, I need to find my fiance, and all of his friends are a bit cagey, like, oh, he already left, whatever. She's like, no, I think he's probably still here, and finds him having sex with another woman. They have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and basically they realise that actually both of them do want to be married and do want to be in love with each other, but they also want to have sex with other people, and that actually maybe they should just be married and also have sex with other people. And in a sort of cathartic episode, the two of them have sex right there in the pub that they're in. And the bridesmaid, she ends up I don't remember how it's pronounced, Subaru or something like that. What is it?
Shibari.
Shibari, that's the one. A couple at the club offer to introduce her to Shibari, and the final shot of her is her being all tied up and being like, this is fucking great. I love this.
Like the constant juxtaposition within that couple of the fiance who is adamant that she definitely wouldn't have done any of this stuff last night, and is definitely not interested today in doing any of that stuff because she's trying to fix her marriage. She's like, I'm getting married tomorrow and I have to be a good, sober bride, so I am not actively pursuing sexual relationships. And her friend getting steadily really into this club, like just everyone giving her so much attention, and she's like, I fucking love this.
Yeah.
It's a really good, fun little escalation of those two characters.
There's a moment towards the end of their scene where this couple tries it on with the bridesmaid, and she's like, no, I've got to help my friend, and the bride's like, you can go, and she's like, great, yeah, off I go.
Has a great time.
Yeah,
has a great time. Okay, so another character. Time for another couple.
Time for another couple.
Let's do. I feel like we should save the cousins till last.
Well, I don't think I actually don't think that their thing is that interesting.
No, I guess it's kind of the most controversial, really, just because of literally the word I just used, cousins.
Yeah, it does. The movie does have a sort of message of like, it's okay to have alternate monogamy situations, and then it goes, and also it's okay to fuck your cousin. You're like, hold on,
also,
what? Sorry.
Really awfully, they clarify as well. First cousin, like most closely related to you, cousin.
Yeah.
Not seventh branch of the family. Our blood is barely of the same ilk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not we were raised in near similar familial situations, but we're not actually blood related kind of cousin. No.
All right,
no.
we'll get to the cousins then. Okay, so who are you going to take then next, Ed?
Okay, so we're gonna say that. Okay, fine. I will take we've got the cousin, I got the couples, and we got we're going for glory holes. We're going for the glory boys.
Okay,
we're going for the glory boys. Glory boys, Victor and Raoul, I believe. So at some point in the film, I don't really quite remember when, but one man walks in by himself. We haven't seen this man before. He doesn't have much of an introduction.
You see him in his house. He's like watching men on the internet. Like,
Oh
and
yeah,
he's
he
sitting on
does.
the sofa they talk about early on.
Yeah. Okay, I'd actually kind of forgotten that scene. Yes, so we sort of see a character who's a little bit like not that interested in all the gay porn he's watching. And I guess the idea is that like this isn't what he wants. He doesn't want that. That's actually not doing it for him. So he goes to the club. He walks into the club and he goes to the bartender, and if I remember correctly, he sort of inquires about some of the different rooms or services that can be a bit available. And he's a bit like, okay, yeah, I'm not actually that interested in what you have to say. The whole time. The bartender, who is a recurring character and ends up being the one who bangs the bridesmaid, bartender says to him, "Oh, we've got all these different rooms, blah 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 blah, pool, BDSM, the labyrinth. What about the glory hole room?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll take the glory hole room." So he gets his directions and he goes down to the glory hole room. And the glory hole room, it's interesting, by the way, because my understanding of glory holes is that you normally just go into like a booth, but this is like an open plan. Like this is more like walking through an art gallery that has no art on the walls.
It's just a wall with a varying amount of, like, I guess, practical holes and like art holes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because some of them had like orange plastic in them, and some of them were just holes.
Like, this is a hole for your penis, and this is a hole for nothing.
This is a hole for art.
Yeah, so it was just quite funny. The whole building is like this, by the way. It's actually artistically really cool. I fucking love this building.
It's a really nice looking film.
I would just genuinely love that as a venue. You know what I mean? It's a fun venue. Never mind all the liquids and
Be a
stuff.
nightmare to clean.
Exactly. So he goes to the glory hole room and he does what you do with the glory hole. And someone starts doing what they do at a glory hole, and he's having a good time, he's enjoying it, he's just getting what he needs out of the situation. And then a voice comes from the other side of the wall, and the first thing that this voice does is it asks him to do some basic, like, can you step a little bit to the left? Your penis is all crooked. To which he's like, okay, what? How dare you? My penis is not. And so he gets into like a smaller bit of banter about whether or not his penis has a bend in it. And then he is able to go back to the activity that he enjoys. Except the sucker in this situation is more chatty. The sucker, whose name we'll later learn as Victor, Victor continues to keep making small talk throughout this entire event, starting to try and understand more about Raoul, understanding more about the dick that he's sucking, I guess, and the for later. Thank you, chat, for that. And getting more and more sort of like involved in this individual. Now, obviously, I don't know if we all know glory hole etiquette here, but my understanding is that relatively anonymity is the point. And so Raoul is kind of quite increasingly defensive about this. He's like, please stop talking to me. Please stop asking me questions. I don't want to talk to you. Please just keep sucking on my penis. To which, varying levels of flirtations and negotiations are met. And we revisit this like throughout the film. So this isn't happening in one continuous scene. Every single escalation of the conversation or the relationship between these two characters is kind of revisited as other things are happening. Eventually, like, they start to share with each other certain bits of information, like learning each other's names. There are a numerous amount of times where penis sucking stops and conversation commences, and then penis sucking continues and conversation is put on hold. And over time, what you get this sense of is that Raoul has met someone who he could love if he let himself, but he is constantly being defensive. He's constantly being aloof. He's constantly trying not to volunteer information about himself. He's kind of like, he's in this very protective mode of like, I'm not going to open myself up. That's why I'm here at the glory hole room and not in one of the other slightly more intimate rooms. Whereas Victor on the other side of the wall is really, I don't know, sees it as a challenge. I think is the kind of his character. He sees like he sees that this person is being defensive, and that kind of actually makes him more intrigued, and he becomes more engaged and more interested in this man. To the point that they keep flirting with the idea of maybe getting a drink. And when that happens and Raoul says no, Victor hands a drink through the glory hole and basically says, I told you I'd give you a drink, or I told you we'd have a drink together, having handed like a rum and coke through a glory hole. And and then later they talk a lot about like not actually knowing what each other look like, and so it's I suppose it's quite a romantic in a sort of gay feely way, right? The Victor puts his hands through it's in a glory hole.
It's quite romantic in a gay way.
It's just in the context of two men at a glory hole. I don't really know if this would be nearly as romantic if it was like a cis het couple. But Victor puts his at a glory hole, but Victor puts his arms through the glory hole and kind of feels up Raoul and says, like, I know what you look like now because I'm able to touch you. And they get each other off with their arms through the glory holes. And it's, you know, I was saying, it's quite a unique context in which romance is displayed between two characters. And I just think there are very few other contexts where you could maybe say that.
I like chat describing this as like the most awkward description of gay sex.
Most awkward. I don't know.
Right, we're running out of time. Finish up the tale.
Right. Well, they finish up each other, and then when Victor finally makes like an invitation for them to meet each other, Raoul decides that he can't do this and leaves. He leaves the building, and it is now morning, and he gets into a taxi. But as he gets into that taxi, he finds himself looking for anyone else leaving the club at the same time as him, hoping that they might be Victor. And as he gets in the taxi and the taxi drives away, he screams for the taxi driver to stop. He sprints out the door. He runs back into the building. He runs through all of the sex club rooms. This bit kind of confused me. He runs into a room where Victor is not, and they start a sex festival in front of him with a marching band.
Yeah.
And without Victor there, he decides that this is where he would like to take his clothes off and have sex with someone. And then Victor appears behind him and kind of like, and it's all okay.
My vibe I got from it was that Victor had taught him to be emotionally open again, because his whole problem was that he'd had a bad breakup and that had closed him off. And Victor had taught him to be more emotionally open again, that ideally it would be with Victor, but he was ready to be out there again.
He was ready to
and then
have
Victor
sex with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I've been asked the question, what is a sex festival? In the context of this film, it is the owner of the sex club, like, blowing a horn and going, like, let the festival begin, baby. And then 4 people walking in with, like, naked, well, in underwear, with a marching band and various
One's playing a big drum, one's playing a saxophone. They march in the nude.
And there's an orgy ongoing.
Oh, and there's an orgy happening around them.
That's a very minor detail. Something we're not going to mention all the orgies because they're actually the default for this film.
Anything that happens within the club, just imagine that during any shot, there's someone fucking in the background.
Yeah, if not several. So we shouldn't need to say it. And then so they reunite in the orgy room, in the blue orgy room. They see each other's face for the first time. Victor makes a joke about, I knew who you were because I could see your bendy penis. And then they make out and have a lovely time. There was also a bit that I completely missed about them being really vulnerable about like a heartbreak that happened in their lives and how that was tied to a particular piece of furniture and living on the 7th or 9th floor of a respective building in Barcelona with no lift. But
it's a quite fundamental part of who Raoul is, and it makes that story really sweet because it's a story about someone sort of like, a lot of the stories are about sex and how how you can have sex for fun, but you can also have sex like the sort of central thesis of the film when it opens is you should leave your feelings at the door and you should have sex for fun, but everyone has their sort of feelings opened by the intimacy that they have with various people throughout the movie, and that's a central part to him, is that he's actively closed himself off and he is there specifically to get off. That's why he doesn't want to look at the person, and by the end of it he finally can come back round to understanding people. Yeah, so I'll do, let's rattle through the other two fairly quickly. So the fourth story is there is a couple who, and they're the first couple we properly meet and like are introduced to the club with, and they have not been having sex for a while, and the wife is trying to, or the girlfriend, I think they don't actually say they're married, the girlfriend is willing to do something to try and reignite the spark in their life, and so they've agreed to come to this sex club, and they're sort of, the owner of the club sort of introduces them to the club and like how it all works, and that's sort of our, as viewers, introduction to the club in the film. And they try and find a couple, and they're looking around, and she's very open to it. She's very interested in the idea, but he's quite standoffish about the idea of swinging, even though it seems like it was his suggestion. And we go away from them for a while, and when we come back, they're having a drink and a talk, and the girlfriend notices this couple, and she's like, they're the one. We've got to go after them, as this beautiful couple walk into the room. So they get up and they go over, and the boyfriend of the original couple and the girlfriend of the new couple look at each other and realize, oh shit, you're my ex. But they don't want to say anything, so they sit down and they have a very awkward conversation where both of them are trying to stop this from happening, and both their partners are trying to really make it happen. And they're all sort of in a situation where there's sort of a web of obligations, and they all basically end up agreeing to do it. They eventually go downstairs, we go away from them, and eventually when we come back, the two people who used to be in a couple are sat awkwardly next to each other, and their partners are just really fucking going at it. And the people who used to be a couple, they're trying to sort of deal with their feelings for each other and understand like what happened between them and why they broke up, and how they've ended up doing this now, and because there was a lot of feelings of lack of sex in their original relationship, and now they're both here at a sex club, so clearly something's changed. And their partners are trying to, like, are obviously enjoying themselves and want to also hear their partners enjoy themselves. So they're like, oh, are you guys having sex? You really doing it? And they're like, yeah, sort of pretending to have sex. And then the other couple look out and they're like, oh, you haven't even gotten undressed. And they're like, okay. So they start undressing and get naked. And then they just have this moment where they realize, like, neither of them are really happy in their relationship. And maybe they could find something in each other. And they end up having a really sort of intimate moment where they sort of cuddle each other. And then their partners finish having sex, step out to see them cuddling, and are like, hey, are you guys having an intimate moment? We came here to fuck. That's absolutely not okay. And they kick up a fuss, and all of them realize that none of them should be with neither of them should be with their partners, and all of them leave. And when they're at the bar, the couple who used to be exes, they're there, and the man of the couple is like, tries to be like, hey, look, maybe we can go back to what we were before. And the woman is like, hey, just because we've been through this moment doesn't mean that things would necessarily be any different if we went back to what we were before. Like, maybe we just aren't right for each other, but we're also not right for them. And they have sort of a moment where they finally come to terms with that relationships can end, and that's okay, and you can still be friends with those people, and they part. And then during the sort of final wrap up, where we see a montage of all the various people, like where they ended up at the end of the day, their partners who were having great sex before, they're sat next to each other kind of looking miserable now they've both lost their partners. And then they look at each other and they're like, sex? Yeah. And then they just start fucking. And that's them. And then Jonas's favourite story of the lot, the kissing cousins.
I'm not sure I called it my favorite, but it's definitely like the most. Yeah. Okay. So the film starts with like a party girl and her roommate getting excited because OMG, party girl's cousin is in town. He's like the best. He's like the coolest. Oh my god, he's such a party boy. He's gonna party so hard with us. Just you wait. Only to find that when she picks up her cousin, and the cousin's called Pablo, I remember that much. When she picks up Pablo, Pablo's like a straight-laced businessman in a suit who has like 25 meetings and has to like answer calls from his boss every 5 minutes, and is clearly just like, oh, his identity is work now. And so he comes around the cousin's house. He's gonna crash. He's been invited to stay at the cousin's house because it's it's cheaper and easier than a hotel. Um, but it's clear that these party girls thought he was going to be a party animal and like party with them, and he's like, because of the time difference, I actually have a meeting at 3 a.m. So fuck off. Um, the party girl is a little bit like with her housemate. They're kind of like joshing around a bit, and the cousin, the party girl's housemate, sort of mentions, "Hey, didn't you used to hear Pablo, your cousin, banging all the time when you were like young, and you used to like get super horny to that shit?" When I say young, I do mean like I think young adult. I don't want to make any further insinuations. But she's like, "Didn't you used to get like super jazzed up when you heard your cousin banging in the house, and you used to just have a massive wank, like a loud wank?" And she's like, "Oh my god, stop, that's so embarrassing." And cousin Pablo is just continuing to be like, "Ladies, this conversation disgusts me. I want to go to bed."
Lady, I'm only interested in business and
Yes.
business-related activities.
The only thing I want to fuck are my sales targets for this week. And so cousin is a bit disappointed that her party cousin party girl is a bit disappointed that cousin Pablo is not a party boy anymore, because apparently he used to party and fuck and be great. But she convinces him. She says, look, come on, one drink. Come on, one drink with me. Come on, one drink. Come on, one drink." And he goes, "Fine, fucking fine, whatever." And she's like, "Great, I know this place. I work there. Let's go to the bar that I work at." Lo and behold, it's El Paradiso Sex Club. And she walks him in through the back door, takes him to the bar. He gets a drink of sparkling water or something like that. And what then sort of proceeds to happen is he is a very good looking man in a suit, and loads of people start to approach him one by one. And we see a lot of physical comedy where lots of people like are touching his hand or touching his shoulder, or kind of like like almost like being like sex vultures, where they're all like circling him, sort of being like, "Oh, are you free? Are you available? Would you like to fuck?" But he doesn't really understand what's going on here. He just thinks that this is like maybe a normal bar for a little bit. He later finds out that this is a sex bar and goes, "Ugh, that's fucking disgusting. Oh my god, no, cousin, are you wasting your life in this fuck bar?" She's like, "Yeah, I love this fuck bar because you used to be a fuck boy, and I want to be like you, cousin. You used to fuck everyone, so now I fuck everyone like you did." And he's like, "Ha, disgusting. I have to go work now." Storms out the club. He has a meeting, a really important meeting that he has to take right now.
Before that, he storms in the wrong direction and he ends up deeper into the club.
Yes, he does. He storms out in the wrong direction and ends up accidentally discovering all the wrong rooms. I'm trying to remember what some of the noteworthy encounters had. Like, obviously, he keeps like opening doors and finding people. Like,
there's a bit where two women are like making out in their underwear, and he like pushes them to the side so that he can step down a hallway.
Yeah, and he finds like a room. I can't remember what the room was, but he finds a room where like everyone's banging and there's only one exit and it's a curtain. And he opens the curtain and it's to a pink hallway with like furry pink walls. And there's like 50% of this hallway is two women making out, and he has to like Metal Gear scooch past them. And then there comes a point where he's like, he does find the exit and he's got a meeting. His boss moves a meeting to 5 minutes from now. He's like, "You have to be in this meeting 5 minutes from now." He goes, "Okay, no problem. I'll be there. I just need to find somewhere quiet." And then he realizes that he's low on battery and he's going to, he's going to only be, the only way he can join this call is on his phone. So he realizes I have to go back. He'll have to go back into the club to charge his iPhone. He goes back in, tries to find an iPhone charger. No one gives him one. The bartender that could give him one saw him be a bit of a dick to his cousin earlier who works there. And so he's a little bit like, nah, not giving you one. And it's at that moment that Pablo's phone dies. And when he realizes that his phone dies, he realizes that he can't join the meeting. And at this point, he basically says, well, I guess I've got nothing to lose. Takes the jacket off, takes the tie off, takes everything off, basically, and has an alcoholic drink. And from there, it's established that he's now in party mode. Pablo in party mode goes into a dark room that's like got really like atmospheric blue lighting, and the idea is that you basically can't visually perceive the people you're fucking, just sort of their silhouettes. He goes in there, and we see him sort of just find a woman, and they just hook up immediately. I'm trying to remember what's the immediate next scene where we see Pablo. It's like, is it him getting back to the house or?
No, so he's sat outside the house.
Yes,
because
okay.
he's walked back to the house.
So he's got no battery. He has no way of getting back into the house he's meant to be staying at. He's sat outside. Eventually, party girl cousin comes home, and he's like, "Oh, thank God you're home. I couldn't get back in." And sort of apologizes as well for basically calling her out and saying, "I think your lifestyle's a piece of shit." They walk in, and they have a small conversation, and he's like, "By the way, after we talked, my phone died, and I went and banged someone in the dark room." And she's like, "Oh?" He's like, "Yeah, I banged someone in the dark room. Have you ever been in the dark room?" She's like, "Yeah, I guess." And he's like, "Yeah, how long ago?" She kind of avoids the question, and it's clear what he's getting at. He's clearly sort of implying that he banged his cousin in the dark room, and she won't admit it for a very long time, but it's very clear that this is what has happened. There is some comedy happening where the housemate is a third wheel to the conversation, and they try and make up that they both had a lovely evening at an unrelated cocktail bar that doesn't exist, and they make up different statements about the cocktails, which are secretly statements about how much they enjoyed having sex with each other. And then after it all comes out and everyone knows that they banged each other, they have this very sort of weird moment of like, we banged each other and it was the greatest thing in the world, but we're cousins and we shouldn't bang. And then they go sleep in the same bed, and they have yet another conversation about whether they should bang as cousins, despite having the greatest, like, the Pablo is basically arguing, well, we just had the greatest sex ever, so we should definitely keep having sex. And Party Girl, weirdly, Party Girl is actually the voice of reason for like 10 minutes and says, no, we shouldn't. And then she goes and sleeps in the living room, and then she hears her housemates having sex, which, as we all know, makes her horny. So then she goes back to the bedroom with Pablo. They agree to have very loud sex to out loud the housemate. And the moral of the story is having sex with your cousin is fine if it feels good.
I think generally it's a good fun movie. It's got a really nice attitude towards sex and sex positivity. I don't think any of it felt particularly cringe. Even the cousin stuff didn't feel like cringe really in any sense. And like it worked really well as a sexy comedy in a way that didn't feel like it was exploiting sexy, but that was an integral part of what it was and what its message was.
It does, and I would say as well, like that cousin timeline. So for one, Koto just points out, consensual. I think you mean consent.
Yeah,
consensual.
Yeah,
consensual. It looks like the word sensual to me, but like funny.
It is. That's the most sensual thing is consensual.
Consent is consensual. Consensual incest is legal in Spain, which is so obviously there's a culture difference there where this is a legal thing. There, whereas here it's illegal and a bit weird. Whereas there it's just a bit weird.
It did, like, I guess so. We talk a lot about the cultural things we learn through doing this randomizer, and it's interesting that one of the cultural things we learn is that we came out of this movie being like, the message is really interesting. Like, the message is like, you should be positive. You should sex, like, monogamous. Like, the level of monogamy in a relationship varies on how much is desired or necessary in different relationships. And also, you can fuck your cousin. That's totally fine. Like, it's like, hold on. One of these things is not like the other. But apparently in Spain, it is.
I guess my main feeling about that plotline, right, is if he had just been the boy from next door, we'd have there would be zero complaints. That like this would have been a completely smooth experience for us.
But it would
so
also
the only bump.
It would also not be anything at all. Like in comparison to the rest of the stories, which are about not like direct taboos in the way that we would put that, but they're about like unconventional sexual situations.
Yeah, there's a barrier that everyone overcomes, and I suppose in their one, it's this kind of like this slightly distant familial relationship, but still, yeah. It's fun. It's fun. Someone asked me what it was like watching this on a train. So for context, everyone, I didn't have much time to watch this. I have been too busy, and I suddenly had to go to London today. Basically, I didn't know if I was going to London or not until basically last minute. So when I knew, I realized I was going to have to watch this film on my phone on the train, because that's 2 hours of dead space where there's like literally only one other thing I can do, right? And it's like watch something on my phone. And so basically having to sit in corners or sit in like, seats up against the windows and walls with my phone at like a stark like 45-degree angle, so that like covering it from the left and covering it from the right and like shielding it with both my hands like it's a visor, and like watching this film, but also like trying to be like really casual about it, like just like, oh, don't mind me, just watching a YouTube video, yeah.
Consistently throughout this process, we've been taught the lesson: don't leave it to watch it to the day that the podcast is. And consistently,
no, fuck you.
We fail to learn that lesson.
yeah. But this is a fun anecdote. So.
It is a fun anecdote, and I'm glad it didn't happen to me.
On the way to London, I was sat behind a family, and the child kept loudly listening to children's like cartoon entertainment on whatever device they had out loud. And so sometimes I'm just there with my headphones, and it's like, glory hole audio is happening, but so is the sound of children's entertainment and parents being like, "Put that down, Johnny. Put that down, Johnny. Sit over here. Sit over here." And it's just. The juxtaposition was so fucked.
Oh dear. All right. Well, shall we learn what horrible thing you're gonna be watching on a train next month? All right.
Let's do
it. So we don't have Laura with us this month. So she can't help me with pre-preparing all of this stuff. So we're gonna have to go back to the good old Dark Lord days. So Jonas,
come on.
I'm going to need you to come up with an 8-letter word where all of the letters are... Oh, hold on. Laura, never mind. Laura just said that she's messaged them to me. I haven't had my WhatsApp on, so I didn't know.
Oh, my Lord. Laura, your lifesaver. I was just going to put out a D8.
Oh, okay. But we still... So she's done one, but we still need to do... the randomizer. So, no. Jonas, I want you to pick an 8-letter word.
Oh, James, don't make me do okay. Okay. I can do this. What about this? Yes. Okay. I think this works. Okay. It's not one word, it's 2 words, but the 2 words are 4 letters, so it's still 8 individual letters.
Okay, so everybody, you need to... Are they all different letters?
Yes.
Okay. Chat.
Yes.
It's been a long time since we've done this, so here's how this works. Jonas is going to read out a word, or 2 words in this case, and the first person in chat to say a letter from that word, we will take that letter and we'll use its position in the word to determine the film that we're going to do. I remember why we stopped doing this.
This is so fucked.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. You ready, audience?
Yeah, let's go.
Corn stew.
Corn stew. Yeah, that's right.
Cornstwew.
Yeah,
Stew. Corn stew.
that's it. Right, we're waiting on
And
someone
see, 'cause-
to Newt.
W.
W. Okay,
The
so
last.
that's the last one.
That's the last one.
Oh, Jonas, you're going to be so disappointed.
I am. I
You're gonna
always
be
am.
so disappointed.
Always am disappointed.
So I'll read out the movies that we're not watching. The first movie that we're not watching this month is High and Low, the movie.
What?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the Japanese?
The Japanese one.
We
yeah.
could have revisited the gang.
We could have
my
been
God.
back. We could have been back.
That's sad.
We're not watching Parker. We're not watching I Am All Girls. It was number 8 that we wanted, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Jamie, it was number 1, the DTC one.
It's not DTC. DTC were a group within the High and Low universe.
Whatever.
Anyway, we're not watching Into the Wind. We're not watching United. We're not watching Love or Money, and we're not watching The Curse of Robert the Doll. Curse of Robert the Doll. I feel like I know
Curse of
that
Robert
movie.
the Doll. Robert.
Oh shit! I've seen that movie. Beth showed us that movie. It's dreadful. It's really dreadful. I could have had a chance to show off The Curse of Robert the Doll. Anyway, we are watching a movie from 2015 called Death of a Gentleman.
Death of a Gentleman.
2 cricket journalists set out to see whether Test cricket has a future. In doing so, they discover a conspiracy which starts at the highest echelons of cricket administration and politics. It's got a 7.2 out of 10, so not bad. And I like a good, something's askew conspiracy thing.
It's a documentary.
Is it? It's a documentary. Oh, okay.
Well, in the genre,
Yeah,
it's got
yeah.
documentary and sport.
Yeah. Okay.
Something real has happened, and we shall bear witness to it.
Okay. Well, I'm. Okay. Fine. I'll.
Sports, but you know what? Actually, I think.
I like a
cricket
good
is not that bad.
conspiracy. I like a good corruption doc, and I don't really mind if it's about sport. If it's got conspiracy stuff going on. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. But apart from that, I think that's it. We've despite saying this was going to be our shortest podcast yet, it might be our longest podcast in quite a while.
We did discuss some things for a very long time.
Yeah.
But the thing is we discussed the things we discussed for a long time. We didn't have a timer for.
That's true. Shit.
The timer works.
The timer works? Question time?
Weird as fuck.
Question mark? Oh my god. We need to finish. Thank you for listening and watching, everybody. It's really lovely to have you here as always. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, you can catch an audio edited version by searching the Bunyip Review on all good podcast places. And if you do, could you possibly leave us a review? That would be really lovely. It would let people know that this is a fun show, a show that's worth listening to, if that's what you think it is. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you can catch us live in person. Well, not in person, visually on twitch.tv/thebunyipman on the first Tuesday of every month. Usually it's on the first Tuesday of every month. Every now and again we have to move it. If you want to know if it's being moved, you can follow me on Twitter at thebunyipman, on Instagram at thebunyipgram, like Instagram, and there's also a Facebook page for the Bunyip Man now, and that posts all of our schedules and going live notifications and some clips and stuff if you want to see cool fun stuff that we've done in the past and all sorts of stuff like that. And Jonas, have you got anything you want to plug before we finish up?
I thought I'd just, as sort of my little recommend for this month, if you go onto YouTube and type Murder for Dummies, that is Murder for Dummies. This new trailer for a comedy series has just come out. The comedy is done by a group called Casual Violence, who are some old friends and like an old comedy group that I fell in love with at the Edinburgh Fringe, and have been sort of good friends with their director and performers ever since. And yeah, they're bringing out like a little YouTube series later this year, October. I'm actually going to the premiere of it in London on Thursday night because I kickstarted it. So if you fancy some very silly comedy that's like a murderish mystery about a ventriloquist, so very like puppet comedy, silly murder stuff, then go check out that trailer. And if you like what you see, then keep an eye out on when that project comes out, and please do support Casual Violence as much as you can, because they're a terrific group, and love to see them doing well.
Lovely. What do I have for a final recommend? I quite liked a video by Tom Scar, who did the Astaf movies and all that kind of stuff, was sort of big on the internet back in the old vlogging days, and now just like is still here, I guess. He did a video called 24 Hours to Escape the Country, and it's part of his Tryhards series. And it was just a really funny idea, and they did a really good job of it, and I thought it was a really good video, and I recommend you go check that out. But yeah, otherwise, have a lovely life, and we'll catch you next time. Go play some squirt person shooters, and we'll catch you next month. Bye!
Pew 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 pew.
Cool. That's us for the podcast.
I shall stop recording.
Oh yeah, I'll do that too.
Will you now?
Stopped. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you for the 2 raids, Sunbury and Gender Meowster. I don't know if you're still around, but it was really lovely to have you raid us. I was in like full flow of a review, so I didn't really get to look at the chat very much, but I hope you all had a lovely time. And also, Jonas, you've reached a 3-stream streak. Well done.
Oh wow, absolutely smashing it with that one, aren't I?
We posted a schedule for our streaming schedule for September. So there's lots of good stuff up there. So I'd recommend checking it out. Let's have a look. What streams of note do we have coming up? So tomorrow is Undertale, which was Jonas's Bunyip Bucks. One of Jonas's Bunyip Bucks recommends. So we're playing some Undertale, or I'll be playing some Undertale tomorrow. I didn't enjoy Undertale the first time I played it, so let's see if that changes. I remember talking to someone. I didn't know them very well, and I ended up messaging them on Facebook to just have a chat. And they said that they were into Undertale, and I said I didn't really gel with it, and they never spoke to me again. They just ended the conversation in that moment. Yeah. I'm interested to see if I can finally be fixed. Next week we've got Void Stranger, which is another recommend, which I don't know much about. I'm excited for that. More Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Stardew Valley, the Tasmanian Tiger, Sea of Thieves, City Skylines, and on the 18th, Sylvia and I will be playing Overwatch. So come join us for just some chill chat and Overwatch.
I can't believe you're not playing Concord, doing your part for the Sony Alliance.
It will be done by then.
Yeah,
It literally won't exist.
Narrow, close one, eh? Well, narrow miss. Dodge that one. I mean,
but yeah, Jonas, have you got anything you want to You don't stream very much anymore, but is there anything you want to?
No, I'm quite busy. Do I actually have anything public that I can tell people about?
Well, you do, because I think it's the first weekend in October. You'll be with me.
Actually, yeah, that was a good point. That's not in my calendar yet, so I just put that in the calendar.
Okay. Gender Meowster, and the Meowster Collective, or whatever they're called, what are they? Gender Federation. That's the one. They are doing another mutual aid raid train. They haven't put out applications for streamers yet, so we don't know when we'll be going, but we hopefully will be doing something, and Jonas and I plan to do a joint effort between the two of us. So as that becomes available, as we know what's going on, more information will be made available.
Yes. No, I've put something in my calendar now for that whole weekend, just so I don't double book.
Just make sure. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, the weekend of the 3rd, the 5th, 6th.
Yeah. No, I don't have much at the moment. I'm gonna try and get a bit more on the voice acty stuff at the in the near future. If I can. I'm still finishing that bloody audiobook that I've been working on for half my life. That's it really.
Lovely. All right. Well, it's late. We've gone on for a long time. So this is probably the second longest podcast we've done. Oh no.
What makes you think that?
Well, because the longest is the 24-hour podcast.
What is? Can I filter by duration? No, I can't.
All right. Well, we'll finish up there. Oh, sorry.
3 hours and 6 minutes earlier this year, in March.
Let's see how we go, eh?
3 hours and 3 minutes last year, 2023, February.
Oh,
those are our 2 longest podcasts.
Okay, let's find someone to raid. I don't really raid for the podcast, but let's do it.
But why not, James?
I don't know. I don't know why I don't raid for the podcast. I should. Guess because I end it like a TV show usually.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next week with a thrilling conversation about squirt person shooters. Can they make you come on demand?
Okay, we're gonna raid all on the table RPG.
All right.
Okay. All right. See you later, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And
bye,
hopefully you come join me tomorrow for some Undertale. Bye.
Bye, everyone.